What is going on, everybody? It is episode 380 of Pop Culture Crisis. My name is Brett. I have two guest hosts with me today and all week. It's boys all week.
Boys cast.
Not even to my left. Introduce yourself, sir.
Oh, hey guys, I'm Aiden Mattis. I am the host of the Lore Lodge YouTube channel, where we talk about conspiracies, missing people, silly stuff like that, and kind of subtly tell you not to trust the government.
Yeah, and that's what all good podcasts should
Exactly.
do, right? Yeah.
Smart moves.
And to my right, introduce yourself, sir.
Hello, everybody. I am Phil Labonte, lead singer of All That Remains. You can kind of Phil That Remains on Twitter. You know, running my face.
All those places. We got a bunch of stuff to talk about today, guys. We are going to talk about the fact that Hollywood studios never learn. In this case, it's about an article from Collider where they tell us that Aquaman 2 will feature a theme on climate change, which, in my opinion, is likely about as true. It's probably very much barely true. But the problem here is they haven't learned their lesson. They should just not say stuff like this at all. So we will get into that. We're going to talk about Arnie and Till from how do you pronounce the band, Phil?
Rammstein?
Yeah,
Rammstein.
It's sh, right?
Yeah, well,
Rammstein,
if it's the Germans, they're like Rammstein, but it's Rammstein.
Yeah,
whatever.
I always said Rammstein, but I didn't know it's different when you're live.
It's English.
Yes. So the lead singer of Rammstein is being accused of some very, very bad essay, as we call it here on the show. And Arnie has come out and said, "Whoops, sorry for all that groping I did back in the '90s."
It was Muscle Beach.
The Gropinator. I'm telling you, that's what we're going to call him from
The
now
women
on.
were touching me. I was touching the women. It was wonderful.
Come for me if you want to leave.
We're going to talk about the fact that you just shouldn't trust your daughters alone with these guys, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Sydney Sweeney, who gave this interview where she basically says, like, my dad and grandpa watched me naked on camera and left the room. Shocking turn of events right there. As they would say, fatherless behavior, but with a dad. That's a problem. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about, in the world where we just recently had an AI, we had a girl, an OnlyFans girl, like a streamer, who made an AI of herself to sell as a girlfriend to people. What we now have, ladies and gentlemen, is a woman who has married an AI and is now pregnant. How that's true, I have no idea, but we're going to talk about it. Interesting, huh? Yeah.
Still not used to that.
You'll get used to it. Ooh, the logo's there behind you there. Now it works.
Ooh,
it's good.
it's working.
It's looking good. So we got that. There's when we got to the pregnancy part, I'm like, the math's not mathing there. We'll figure it out. We'll get to it. So all right, if you guys are ready, we will get right into the start of the show. Are we ready? Let's go.
Ready.
All right. All right, to start the show off, I have a couple of small announcements. The first is that the Super Mario Brothers movie has hit $1.3 billion, and that is a lot of money. That is a lot of money for a movie about a little Italian plumber, as far as I'm concerned.
It is.
It says Disney's perennial hit Frozen is saying "Let It Go" to the spot as the second biggest animated movie of all time over the weekend. As the Super Mario Brothers movie hit $1.3 billion at the box office, enough to bump the original from the Royal Sisters of Anna and Elsa, which had $1.28 billion. Down to number 3. But unfortunately, what they don't realize is that the sequel to Frozen 2, is number 1. So it's not even totally winning. It's just it's number 2. And it's a sign that what's going on here proves that you should just make general movies that people want to see and not fill your movies with a bunch of propaganda.
Well, that's a tall order nowadays.
In today's market, can they really do that?
Well, and that's the thing is I look at this and then you look at the movies that came out last year that were really good, that did really well. The ones that did surprisingly well, even you look at like Smile, which is obviously a horror movie, but did shockingly well for a horror movie.
And fantastic marketing for that movie.
Oh my God, it was so good. And then, Top Gun. It's not political. It's just a movie about people flying fighter jets. There's no named enemy.
Vaguely evil enemies who have like curiously blacked out masks and you can't see even the race or ethnicity of who the bad guys are. That's great.
You never knew who the bad guys were in the original Top Gun?
Yeah.
Did they? I don't know.
No, I think they just call them the enemy.
No, in the original Top Gun, Russia's very
Was it Russia?
Much,
Did they say Russians?
We were post-Cold. We were just like exiting the Cold War, right?
Because they had stars. They didn't have the sickle and hammer on it.
I think it was like implied pretty heavily that it was the Soviets.
I'm pretty sure they
I think they
said
called them
Russia.
the enemy.
I'm going to have to rewatch it this weekend.
If anyone in the chat knows.
You know what my favorite thing about watching the original Top Gun is go through it and watch all the ways they hide how short Tom Cruise is. Yeah. Like, it's like, why is Val Kilmer sitting down? We have no idea. It's because it makes him look equal in height to Tom Cruise. That's what you got to do.
Apple boxes.
I love it. Also, guys, I was wrong. Apparently, Ezra Miller is going to be attending the Flash premiere in Los Angeles. My hope is that what they should do is they should make it like a marketing technique where they're like, he was there, you didn't see him. He was like, and then pretend like he is the Flash, and they just got him in and out without anybody seeing him.
Yeah.
That'd be fantastic. I do think right now, to be fair, we are, I mentioned this, I'm like, we do have like a weird kind of tunnel vision here. Like, normal people don't know who Ezra Miller is, nor do they care that he's a creep and a criminal. Like, I think that for the most part, we know and we expect everybody else in the world to know. But normal people who are not, who don't have to like follow all this stuff obsessively, they don't know who this dude is. They don't know that he's a creep who has like 10,000 different allegations of 10,000 different crimes against him.
I thought there was just like that. I thought there was like one actual significant issue where he like some kind of kidnapping stuff going on.
No, that's the least of it, because that one is like the kid was technically 18 by the time this had happened. So even though it's creepy and he had known the child from the age of 12, that's creepy. But it's not technically a crime if the person was over 18 when they left home, right?
Yeah.
To me, it's having a girl and her daughter at his house on his weed farm with firearms not securely like put away. He literally is the libertarian.
He's
literally
Stop that.
he's a hilarious libertarian meme where he's like he's on a weed farm with guns. He doesn't have them properly stored.
He's the worst kind of libertarian meme.
Yeah, he's the one you don't want advertising your cause.
I'm having a hard time finding fault with this stuff.
They're saying like a child shouldn't be around unsecured firearms and
that's fair,
and or drugs.
Depends on what you mean by unsecured.
Just laying around.
Laying
around, not put in any gun safe or anything like that. But not just that. There's the case in Germany where he supposedly was like telling this lady, "You want to fight?"
Yeah,
and was like choking her and stuff like this. Like there's
fighting
like
people.
We had to go through.
There you go.
I actually have it here. It's like literally like it's a timeline of all the things he's done wrong. And what's funny about it is you just watch how long this timeline is. It just keeps going.
It does not stop.
It just keeps going. This is all things that he's done.
So never mind then. I thought.
Yeah. So
I do want to point out though that like. We're doing a lot of talking about grooming these days, obviously. Ezra Miller being around a 12-year-old who then later on goes and spends time with him somewhere else and possibly has a relationship with him is like the definition of grooming.
Yeah. Well, and like
that is what the word means.
The scary part about that was like they said like her parents like had basically groomed her, for lack of a better word, to be an activist from a child from the age of from a very young age, right? When your parents get you into that.
It's like Greta Thunberg. Same thing.
Activist parents are like extremely religious parents. It's the same effect. Essentially, like kids end up,
Who is that? I just saw a video on Twitter yesterday. Since I don't follow, I follow politics unfortunately by design, because of like the people that I work with who are connected to other people. So it's like in my timeline, even if I don't want to look at it most of the time. And it was some young congressman who was at like a hardcore show or something and was like on stage, and they're like,
I don't know who the person was, but he was at a Paramore show.
Was on stage even worse.
The
Maxwell Frost.
Okay, so and people were, what scared me about it was people were like saying like he's a community organizer and activist, like all politicians should be. I'm like, no, not like all politicians should be.
Yeah, I don't want activists.
No, like even community organizers are red flag.
Yeah, community.
Thanks, Obama. Like, kidding. It's a joke. But I'd rather I like the idea of people who own businesses in the community, like who have stock, who actually have stake in whether the community does well or not.
Right.
Like that matters to me more than that. But yeah, like that's like now we're getting into this horrible age now that we're living in, where it's like influencer politicians, and it just makes me want to vomit.
It's just you don't need to have politics in every It drives. It's one thing if you're a protest band, if you're a band that makes protest music. Yeah. Paramore is a pop punk band. They're a pop punk act, vaguely emo.
Well, she did that.
You're gonna have people of all political persuasions at your concerts. Your job as an entertainer is to entertain, not to make people think the way you do. Your job is to get up there, put on a good show, have everybody go home and say, that was a great concert.
She had a thing recently where she basically said that to all her fans, like, if you vote for Ron DeSantis, you're dead to me. I was like, bold of you to think that anyone who votes for Ron DeSantis is coming to your show, but maybe I'm wrong.
That's the thing, though. But like, even for me, I'm not a registered Republican. I probably wouldn't vote for DeSantis, but I hear that and I'm like, okay, well now I'm kind of turned off.
Yeah. I don't get on. There's never a time where all that remains is like taking a political stance.
Yeah.
Everyone knows my personal politics, but the band, as in and of itself, doesn't have politics. And obviously, if there's like communists or Nazis, like authoritarians that like have killed and murdered people, we're gonna disavow them. But like we don't get up there and say, if you don't vote for this guy or if you do vote for this guy, you're dead to us or whatever. It's like, for the most part, I think that bans from stage, unless, again, like you were saying, unless they actually are an actively protest band, like an active protesting band or a political band, like you might want to just leave it because,
Yeah, like if I go to see Rage Against the Machine, I expect to be lectured about politics.
If you go to see the Rage
pay a lot of money to do it.
If you go to see Rage Against the Machine, you're probably a bad person because they're communists and communists are evil. So
there you go.
But other than that, it's like, don't from stage. You don't need to go ahead and crap on half your audience.
Sad too, because there is Rage Against the Machine music that I like.
Oh, they're phenomenal
their
artists.
Music is amazing.
They're phenomenal. Yeah, their message is just terrible.
Their lyrics suck.
It ends up with 1 million dead people or something like that, or millions of dead people.
All right. Also, guys, if you didn't know who was the most statistically attacked cast member of the Rings of Power, it has come out that apparently Sophia Nambidi was that person. I really would love to be able to cast a spell, like a no whining spell over Hollywood. Like, it's kind of like what you were saying earlier, that like, look, you hire them knowing they're gonna, like, I'm literally actually like, when I see this stuff now, what I actually think is, it's not that these studio executives are progressive, it's the opposite. They're really racist, and they're like, they hire this lady knowing that she's going to get a bunch of backlash, and they're just mean. And then you have to define, like, what's backlash. Like, is us having a discussion where, like, it's really funny because we talked about this show endlessly, and her character was one of the few characters that I thought did a fairly good job.
Oh, yeah.
Or like the characters that I liked were all the ones that everybody else was hating on. But it doesn't mean that you're not annoying for taking a job, and like, it would be like taking this job and then being mad when people complain about who you work for, or what you do for a because that's unfortunately part of what comes with working at this company, right? Is that there are people that are politically aligned differently, that have this caricaturish idea of who Tim is, for instance, and then, transpose that onto me. And I'm like, look, I don't like, sounds like a personal problem, bro.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what to tell you. But like, it's like, if you're going to make the money that they're going to make to do these shows, the least you could do is like be a little bit more thick-skinned about it.
And the thing is, I genuinely thought she had one of the better performances in the show. I thought she was one of the best actresses. But you look at it, this is Tolkien was writing all of this from the lens of European folklore. So whether or not he describes somebody as black, if their character is not given any description, you can assume that character is probably going to be white. Yeah. Now, even still, there were characters in the show. There were places that you could have black characters where it would have fit. But I think what happened was they shoehorned a race swap into a spot that it really didn't need to be there. Yeah. And then what happened was this woman gets attacked when she did nothing wrong as in terms of her performance. She was great, but there's the executives had to know, and they probably factored it in going, oh, this controversy will drive even more people to watch the show. And
technically they do something wrong by commenting on it. They would be better off not discussing it. And this is on the journalists too, who are like, so how do you feel about all these bigots that keep talking about you? And they're like, well, I didn't know what it is. And then they have to, they're put on the spot and they have to give these responses. A lot, like, I would venture a guess that like 70% of the horrible quotes that you've heard from some television actor or movie star, it's prompted by some journalist who's looking for a reaction to that post. It's every so often, it's something that they say on Twitter, and those are the most unhinged of all of them. But if you're getting some interview quote where somebody says something, it's because some journalist was like, so how about those alt-right Yahtzees that are gonna tell you that your show is bad, huh? Because they want the soundbite, right? And then I have to be over here like, crap, now we have to talk about it, and then you have to, and then the cycle repeats itself. but it's like nobody's taught these people how to be more. I don't even know what the word would be. Would it be magnanimous? Would it like how to be a little bit more diplomatic in their delivery? Like find a way to be like Henry Cavill says. They're not toxic. They're passionate. They're passionate fans. But these people aren't fans of the things that they're making.
Well, and that's the other thing is the people that they're trying to appeal to with all of this talk about. I think she refers to herself as like trying to break boundaries or something. Those people aren't watching. They might be watching the Rings of Power, but those aren't the Tolkien fans. Yeah. The people who are watching Rings of Power because they're Tolkien fans don't care about this stuff. Yeah. So, yes, I understand, every once in a while you might want to try and do something a little bit risky by having a character be black, like had consistently through the 70s and 80s all the time.
You know what they should have done? They should just cast Wesley Snipes. That's what they should have done. That's a gender swap too. That's amazing. Yeah. He should have played Galadriel.
Yeah.
Should have had Wesley Snipes as Galadriel. I'd have been down for that.
Honestly, that was the character and role I came down on the hardest.
Yeah, she was the worst. She was the absolute worst in the entire show.
Yeah, was I irritated with the race swap? I felt like it was a little we all knew why they did it, and that kind of made it annoying. But the Galadriel character, they destroyed her.
Yep.
She's terrible.
Now all you'll ever think about is her looking ridiculous while riding a horse.
Yeah,
making that face she makes when she rides a horse, where she looks halfway between laughing and constipation.
And they didn't even need to, because the old Galadriel from the the early 2000s series was this regal, elegant but powerful queen who you could actually look at and respect and see as a powerful sorceress. And they were like, no, she needs to be a man down in the ditches fighting. They totally screwed up her character.
I mean, I don't know particularly. I don't have a dog in the fight as to what Galadriel should have been like compared to what she was in the original. But at the same time, the idea or the impulse to make women into manly characters, I don't get it.
Because they want to go against. It's really funny. I never noticed this until recently, but it's not just story subversion. So what they want to do, it is in a lot of ways at the heart of it a unique form of identity politics, where yes, they want to make the women like men, but they also want to get rid of the concept of family, meaning what Hollywood loves to do is stories of chosen family.
Yep.
Meaning that you had a family, they were either bad people or it's Disney and they died, and you have a family that you can make your own. And those stories, when done well, can be just as emotional as a story about actual family. But when you do more of that than actual stories of family, I've been watching the show. I started the show called Joe Pickett. It's so depressing. I almost had to take. If I was prescribed a Prozac, I would have taken another. But it's really depressing, and it's really interesting because at least from as far as I've gotten in the show, the character is a loving husband. He's a good father. And that's just not, and they're still married. It's shocking. It's not something you see all that often in Hollywood these days. But her mom, the lead character's wife, her mom is just this awful woman. Oh, no. I think it's not Wendy McKenna. It's the same lady who played the mom to Isles and Rizzoli and Isles, I think.
Gotcha.
But the point is that she's I taught you how to be strong and independent and not to rely on a man. But she's being portrayed as a drunk who is giving her bad advice. So that's actually shocking in Hollywood.
Yeah.
In this, granted, I'm only 3 episodes in. This could go horribly wrong. But as far as I know, season 2 just came out and I think they're still together. But to see any type of pro-family message in Hollywood these days is kind of shocking. Of course, it's done in the most depressing show. I'm the whole time, it's just blue and dark, and there's just no I realized that there's a difference between recently about there's humor and then there's levity between characters, which is it doesn't need jokes, haha. But characters need to not look so serious every single moment of every single minute of the show. Because by the end of the second episode, I'm like, Jesus Christ.
You know what show did a phenomenal job with that? And I do think the early seasons probably would struggle to get made today. Supernatural.
Oh.
Huge cult TV show in the 2000s. Yeah. And by the end of it, I think it was okay, this just needs to end. But it handled those kinds of situations where it wasn't constantly heavy. It wasn't constantly preaching at you. There were moral lessons every now and then, but they had a good mix. They had and they did both too. They had stuff about finding a family, and also the two main characters are brothers, and they spend the first 2 seasons trying to find their dad. There's all these. It handles the nuance so well, and I feel like Hollywood has lost the ability to write nuance. They just have to whack you over the head with their point.
I've tried to watch Supernatural 4 times, and every single time I stop at episode 3. I can never get past episode. I keep trying because I don't want to start at 3 and then keep going. So I keep retrying, and it just eventually I'll get to it. That's funny too because we had Mark Pellegrino was on Culture Wars, so he was here, and I was like, and I'd seen him in just about everything he'd been in but Supernatural. Yeah. Even though that's the thing that everybody knows him from. So.
He was great in that show.
So basically what I'm saying is like they need to start like these actors. I would like to see some of them be a little bit more, a little bit more diplomatic when they take these roles, knowing that you're going to get pushed back. But it's the blatant mischaracterization, calling it racism when we know that that's not what it is.
Yeah, no.
All right. Also, guys, did you... Look on the screen if you can. This is Kanye West and his wife. So the point was, like, we had a topic the other day that people got a little bit heated about when I said that Kim Kardashian's sex tape will be just as much of a problem for her kids in the future as Kanye's horrible behavior lately. I mean, this outfit is pretty bad too, so maybe I was wrong.
He's got like big old shoulder pads on in there,
looks
right?
Looks like shoulder pads, and maybe to make his arms look bigger than they are, or is it like an actual?
I'm just wondering why his wife's dress has a foreskin.
I mean,
it does.
I think it looks like a condom is being pulled up off the top of her head.
Is this a further comment on Judaism by her not being circumcised?
You know that he's not a fan of the Jewish people, right? So that might be.
That better not be it. That better not be it. But it's like when you wonder why, like if your kids come out weird, and then they go back and you look at these pictures and you're like, of course. Like, of course.
Come on.
Like,
look at that.
This is, by the way, this is him and his wife, Bianca Censori, out with, they were out of sight of the church that they go to. Apparently not a mega church. Apparently there's a documentary made on Hillsong now.
Yeah.
On Hulu. I haven't seen it.
Wait, they go to Hillsong?
No.
Oh, okay.
I think they did at one point.
Gotcha.
The Kardashians went to Hillsong at one point back in the day.
I was gonna say what?
Yep. Like he's like it's an impressive outfit. Like that is an outfit that screams I have FU money. Like
yeah.
Normal people don't wear that.
He's always worn like weird things like that though, hasn't he? He's always been like.
But just that's not what I want. I want to see the pitch where he's like, honey. Because she didn't pick that out. I want to see the thing where he's holding this up and it looks like a Teletubbies outfit. And he's like, babe, we're going to church. I need you in your Sunday best. And she's like, oh, okay. And he's like, no, this is your Sunday best. She's like, a foreskin dress? I don't want to wear a foreskin dress to church.
I don't want to.
Especially to church. You should wear the circumcised dress to church.
Exactly. She's like, look, I'll wear this to a nightclub. I don't want to, but I will. I'm not wearing this to church.
Like, have some respect.
It's just so ridiculous looking. I mean,
it's also a degree of irony wearing a police shirt to a church, considering how Jesus died.
Yeah, it's a police tie, so it's a German police shirt at that.
Which, again, given the recent controversy,
I mean, it's all just weird.
Probably should have not.
All just weird.
We're gonna talk about it later. That's.
I almost wonder if they do these things to get you to focus on that, so you don't talk about what they're actually out doing.
False flags all the time.
Because if they go out like grocery shopping or whatever, and you're talking about their outfit, you're not talking about what kind of milk they bought. I guess I don't know.
He's like he drinks nothing but skim milk. And Decoy Voice is in the chat. What's up, Decoy?
You can't convince me that's not an AI image.
It could be like it could absolutely be. And then also my favorite was his I guess it's like a bodyguard or something that was in the photo and he's dressed normally and just that guy just wakes up every day. He's like, like he's like one day I'm gonna have enough money to have a wife that wears the foreskin dress to church. And
how long has he owned it for?
I wonder what that costs.
That's the upsetting part. Is probably so much money.
I can't.
That dress probably costs more than we make in a week.
Also, to be fair, that bike looks straight for it feels like he'd buy the kid like a gold-plated bike.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. It's at the very least he's not boring. We can say that about Kanye. Also, okay. Since I went down the rabbit hole about a month ago, $20 super chat here from Corey Anderson says, I missed the intros, but dude looks like Aiden from the Lore Lodge.
I am Aiden from the Lore Lodge.
Which is really eerie because YouTube basically sent me down a Lore Lodge rabbit hole this weekend. Have you done videos covering Mothman or the Black-Eyed Children?
Mothman directly, yes. We've mentioned the Black-Eyed Children thing vaguely on a couple of occasions. But yeah, we have a whole video on Mothman, and we are probably going to go to Mothman Fest this year and do a new video on Mothman while in Point Pleasant. Yeah.
Nice. But what was I going to say? Okay, so recently, in the last month, I've gone down the rabbit hole on the Kanye West, on the AI Kanye song tip, where it's just it's all like instrumental. Or I'm sorry, it's all like a cappella. Or like it's just chill songs, but it's all Kanye with quotations marks.
Style.
And the one I heard yesterday was Style by Taylor Swift, and they actually switched the thing where they make it a guy's song. Like rather than leave it the same, which I said the whole reason my old conspiracy theory was they wanted to make LGBTQ a big thing so they wouldn't have to remember how to change the songs whenever a guy would cover a woman's song or a woman would cover a guy's song.
Now it's a moot point, yeah.
Yeah, now you don't have to anymore. You can just cover it any way you want. Doesn't matter. But it was like they do a Kanye West version of Style by Taylor Swift, and I was like laughing while listening to it last night because they actually took the time to change the lyrics. It was incredible.
Oh my God.
So, all right, guys. Would you like... Okay, so first, which one first? Would you rather see cute of the day or cringe of the day?
Cute.
All right.
I'm feeling cute. There's been enough cringe already.
All right. So cute of the day, we got a couple here. This is from Layla Hage or Heg. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. I wasn't sure if I had shown this one before, so I brought it back. I hadn't liked it before. I'm supposed to like all of them when they come through. But this says, just a few of my little monsters. Trouble, the blue healer mix. My favorite girl, Stumpy. She has a deformed leg but doesn't seem to mind. And to the two sharing a bone and are a murderous spawn of Satan named Kiki. It doesn't specify which one is Kiki. But that's
which one looks like the murderous spawn of Satan?
Let's go through. Is that the murderous spawn of Satan? I don't know.
Having encountered chickens, I would assume so.
I think that's the murderous spawn of Satan.
Yeah, definitely the cat.
It's even got its arms crossed, like it's taking a creepy photo for like a.
Of course, it's
one of the cats gave me a very dirty look when I walked in earlier.
Bocus.
Was it Bocus?
Oh, it's not a dirty look. Bocus is just kind
of a very suspicious look.
It's very suspicious, bordering on prima donna sometimes when he gets what he wants. So we love Bocus though. All right, and also we've got this one. I wasn't sure if I showed these, so I've been cycling back through a couple of them. Also, remember, guys, if you'd like to have your pets featured, hashtag PCC Pets. Tag me and the show at popculture_show on Twitter. This is more pictures of Luna because Mary Archived missed out the first round. Well, she's missing out again. Sorry, bud. She's not here. That's Luna. That is an adorable looking puppy.
Is that an Esky?
Looks like it.
It's either a Husky or an Esky, I think.
There it says, feed me. And there's, it's going to catch the...
Probably a Husky.
Good catch. Adorable. And we could use a pool. I could use a pool here.
In here?
In here.
I'll have to submit some pictures of Archie next time.
Yes.
There's space.
Absolutely will. And then this one here, it says, so you're looking for cute, are ya? And this is from Chewbacca on Twitter. This is adorable. I saw this one earlier and I had to show this one.
Oh my God, it's a baby cow!
I want one. We should have cows here.
I wish they made cows that just stayed like that.
No, they do not.
All right. Now we've got cringe of the day. I'm gonna go with this one. This one's very. There's no ladies here, so we can laugh at this one.
Oh no!
Here we go.
So it's 2 p.m. and I'm just done crying because people expect me to work. Do people not understand that I'm just a girl? What do you want from me? I'm supposed to go to yoga classes, day drink with my girlfriends in a cute cafe, get massages, get my hair done, get my nails done, and that's it. That's supposed to be it. Like, give me a break. I'm just a girl. I'm supposed to just walk around, go shopping, and look cute, and that's it. Who told us that we needed to work?
It's those feminists, man. She has misdirected anger.
She's actually upset, huh?
I have no idea. Mary sends me the cringe.
I kind of assume she's kidding.
I think she's kidding. But the point is, like, this is the feminist movement at work right now. They're mad at the wrong person.
I mean...
I'm sorry, somebody just told me they have Scottish Highland mini cows.
Let's get them.
Yes.
Let's get them.
I will be purchasing one immediately.
Where do you think you're going to keep the Scottish mini cow?
I don't know. Probably like
tied up.
I'll buy a little ranch for it.
Yeah.
It just needs a Scottish Highland mini ranch.
Scottish Highland Mini Ranch.
And right here in can we drop a Scottish Highland Mini Ranch in Philadelphia somewhere?
Probably.
It's just drop
Fairmount Park. It's big.
Yeah. All right. I think she was kidding, but we'll let it go. We'll see later. All right, guys. We are going to move on. We are going to get started today. Before we get started, however, would you hit the like button on this video and subscribe to this channel if you have not done so already? Share the video with your friends so everybody else can come and hang out with us this week. It is Boys Cast after all.
Boys Cast.
For now, I mean, Boys Cast is actually not. That's Ryan Long's podcast, but we're co-opting the name for the time being. All right, let's get started, shall we? So it says Aquaman 2 will take on climate change as a major plot point. See, the problem is, guys. These studios never learn, and they don't understand what is good press and what is bad press. I put a poll up in the chat today. I'm going to do my best to remember to close it out. I said, what is a worse movie villain, Amber Heard or climate change? Right now, Amber Heard is winning, so that says something about how much people are scared of climate change. Apparently, they're not as scared of that as we thought they'd be.
I mean, look, I have a probably an old man opinion on climate change, which is it's a big lie. And the reason I feel like that is because it's been the same line since 2006 with The Inconvenient Truth, that movie by Al Gore, right? Yeah. It was supposed to be that all the shorelines would be different by now, and the seas were going to rise, and all the ice is going to go away. That was almost 20 years ago now.
See, I would be okay if they did one thing. Instead of making Aquaman 2 about climate change, I want them to make an AI version of the movie Day After Tomorrow where they just drop Aquaman into the movie Day After Tomorrow and have him save the world instead of just making another Aquaman movie.
I feel like there would be pickup shots necessary.
That just a couple.
There would
just
probably be some pickup shots necessary.
All right, so it says, I think people are going to be excited to see this movie. That the movie is quite different from the first film in terms of tone. It's a little bit more serious, and we're dealing with issues like climate change. Stop right there.
I feel
nobody wants to see that.
Yeah, no, like
literally 0 people, and the ones that do want to see it don't have money and cannot afford to buy a ticket.
Haven't we passed the point where like deconstruction of existing narratives is a compelling storyline? It's like you don't need to take narratives that resonate with people and just turn them on their head, because it's been done. Like the whole postmodern thing is over. Like it's done, and now like it's like the people that are creating art haven't realized that the people that are consuming these products and going to see movies, it's like they don't realize that these people are over the whole deconstruction thing. Yeah. It's like I want to see the good guys win, and I want to see the good guys actually being good. I understand that the real world has nuance, and that, you know, sometimes bad things happen. But that doesn't mean that I want to go and have my entertainment constantly shoving down my throat that there are negative aspects to life. I know. I'm living it. Give me some sunshine, damn it.
The problem is they're afraid to tell new stories. Therefore, when all you tell is the same stories over again, to make it new, you have to do deconstructionist stories.
Ugh.
That's the problem.
Ugh.
Yep.
Yeah.
I want to see an Aquaman prequel that goes back to Meltwater Pulse 1B, then explains how Göbekli Tepe got there. That's what I want.
Do you know a lot about Atlantis?
No, a decent amount. But the thing is with Atlantis, it's been factored into a bunch of early catastrophe theories just like this. Climate catastrophism has been around for 200 years. Somebody
said it's been around since the 1800s.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of people in even the late 1700s who start talking about all of these times in history they believe that the Earth has had a major reset. Of course, back then the belief was that whenever the poles switch, the magnetic poles, it weakens the magnetic field.
You still hear people talking about
Oh yeah, people still think this. But that basically what happens is the magnetic field weakens, and this allows the usually solid molten like core, not core, the asthenosphere is the exact layer, allows that to become liquid, which allows the crust to move like 90 degrees on the mantle.
So you should make this Aquaman movie where
and it's complete nonsense. It's one of the most unscientific things I've ever heard. Man. But they've been pushing stuff, you know, and that kind of faded out after the 1960s.
Yeah.
But that's something that they pushed. Like Einstein wrote that this was something that should be investigated. A lot of people be like, Einstein believed in it. No, Einstein said it should be investigated, but people have been on the whole the world is ending thing, and it's the
Correct.
climate for 200 years.
We've got a $20 super chat. At least I think it's $27.99 from, I think that's Canadian
So
currency.
probably about right.
It's a very polite currency. It says, "I'll take climate change over woke race gender moralizing any day of the week."
No, you won't.
They
You
go
get them
together.
both.
They're the
Exactly.
same
You do have
thing.
to get them both.
They're the same thing. You don't get one or the other, because the whole reason for you to worry about climate change isn't because it's going to mess up your life. It's because it's going to mess up a POC from Africa's life or
remember,
something like that.
Jane Fonda just came out and said that white men are the problem
Yes.
with climate change and they should all be arrested. What I love about it is like all of these topics, like the funniest things have become like topical and politicized, like landlords. That's my favorite out of all of them.
God.
They freaking hate landlords. More like I want to see a movie where Aquaman fights a landlord. That's what I want. I want to see a one where like he's under the sea, he's at the bottom in Atlantis, and there's a bad Atlantis landlord who's charging too much rent to other Atlanteans, and he has to go and he has to take him out. I will watch that movie for the lulz, but it's not like they would treat that the same as they would treat any of these themes.
If they make that movie, I'm going to seek Canadian health care.
So James Wan goes on. He says, "We're not afraid to lean into that in a big way." Well, leaning into climate change as a story is the stupidest thing I've
It's
ever
like
heard. He
leaning
says,
into cancer.
It just doesn't make sense.
because the Aquaman comic book, even back then, has always been environmentally conscious. I don't care. Nobody wants it in your movie. He's always been someone who's fought to keep the ocean clean. Again,
But that's the thing. Is
We're
like,
not talking
keep the
about
ocean clean.
Then we're talking about more ocean.
Yeah.
If-
like more ocean, more water, more ice. The ice melts. Just
And the
more
thing is,
ocean.
if this was going to be if we were going to do a movie about Aquaman and climate change that made sense, I feel like having Aquaman fight against the Great Pacific Garbage Patch would be the way to go. Like Aquaman cleans up the Pacific would be the movie.
wait, or like no, like maybe what it is like
He's fighting Japanese whalers.
it's it's always they're always talking about the ice caps melting, or like
Yeah.
look at the iceberg, or like what is it? What are things that are always breaking off? Like is it
Just ice shelf pieces of the ice shelf. Yeah.
Like what they need to do is they need to create their own iconic version of like in Spider-Man, where he holds the two parts of the bridge together, where Aquaman brings two parts of an ice cap together and pulls them back to the center. It would be hilarious. I would watch that. It's stupid, but look, what I'm saying is like you could make all of these themes. The problem is when you start advertising it this way and you start throwing out the buzzwords, people don't like it. People don't want to hear it.
Nope.
People don't care. They don't. Like, they want to see Aquaman. What they care about is Jason Momoa looking shredded without a shirt on.
Precisely.
Like, you could melt the polar ice caps and destroy humanity, but as long as he does so with his shirt off, most of the people going to see this won't care. Like, actually, I have no idea whether this... I'm sure it's still skewed male, but...
I personally would like to know Khal Drogo's opinions on climate change.
that would be fantastic.
The guy he played in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, did the people in Game of Thrones care about climate change? I don't think so.
Those dragons are emitting
No,
a lot of CO2.
They were burning things with dragon breath.
They
did
didn't
not care.
They didn't care one bit.
Not one bit. And they were right to not care.
So, it is what it is, but we'll see what ends up coming of all this.
It is what it is. It's cancer.
But to me, this and The Flash are both polling low as far as like what their opening box offices are going to
Yeah.
be. But I think The Flash has the benefit of more cameos than Aquaman.
Yeah, the Flash actually, part of me wants to see it because of Michael Keaton.
Yeah,
You
I mean
know?
that's why a lot of people are going. I want to see it because I want
Probably,
to see. I want to see Superman Nicolas Cage. That's the real reason I'm going.
Huh?
Oh yeah, he's making a cameo
Nicolas Cage.
because he was originally going to be Superman
Yeah.
in like 2006,
I wanna
before
see it now.
before the Brandon Routh Superman.
Yeah, like
Wow.
they're like, look, let's just take the least impactful character that was in Justice League and make a movie about him, and then just like
No, that would be Cyborg.
Do you think Cyborg? Well, I don't know.
in the theater version of it, easily Cyborg. Cyborg was way more important in the HBO Max version of it, the Snyder cut, that was like 4 hours long.
Yeah.
But then
Yeah.
you had to sit through 4 hours, which I did do.
I mean, I actually was interested in seeing the Snyder cut. I watched it, so
It's good.
Yeah, I don't.
It's just not a movie. It's two movies.
It's long.
I
have
don't
not
hate
watched
any
the
of the
whole thing.
DC stuff. Like I really like. I know there's a lot of people that have plenty of criticism for the DC stuff, and I think that most of the criticism with the DC stuff is because the bad guys are not compelling. I think that
that's
they're-
usually a Marvel problem.
Well,
that's
I mean,
usually a Marvel problem.
That
The
really
DC
was in Justice League. It was real. Like the bad guys are just not compelling. The Batman versus Superman, the
extended
Doomsday
edition's really good.
Doomsday was good,
Yeah.
but otherwise, like the JLA Batman bad guys were not compelling. Even like even though Wonder Woman, the first one was all right.
The second one was bad.
I didn't see that one.
The second one was bad. It's,
But even still, the bad guy in that one, he wasn't Ares or whatever. It was like, this is supposed to be a god, and it's like kind of whatever, you know. It wasn't compelling. So I don't have a lot of problem with the DC movies, and I think that they really set it up to be good. But Ezra
Did you
Miller's
see Shazam? You should watch the original Shazam. I still haven't gotten around to finish. I've gotten 3/4 of the way through the sequel, but it's like it looks like Lucy Liu is really bored the whole movie. It's really fun. She looks like she looks really uninterested. Her and it's Helen Mirren just look really uninterested. Ooh, John Doe says Mr. Terrific movie. That would actually be kind of cool. I don't think they're ever going to do that with a character that's that B or C list. They're going to stick to the main. They can't even get the main characters right. So we'll see once they can get the main characters right. But yeah, let's just say for the sake of argument that Aquaman does, because Aquaman made $1 billion. The first I still have no idea how, but the power of Jason Momoa with that. Sure.
I really think it was just that between Jason Momoa and Amber Heard, there was eye candy for everybody.
I don't even remember if she was in. I don't think the controversy was going on.
No, it wasn't yet.
I barely remember her in that movie. She did not have any kind of impact.
No, but they sure as hell advertised that she was in that movie.
Yep. By the way, let's look at the poll right now. So far, 76% are still saying that Amber Heard is the bigger threat to humanity rather than climate change. So that tells you what
climate change is not real.
Amber Heard is an existential threat to humanity. That's what they're saying here. What would you like to see? So the problem here is the advertising, right? They're advertising climate change. What's something you would like to see them advertise that would actually get you interested to go see a movie?
I mean, and now that you guys mentioned it, fighting the garbage patch is good.
I'm not even kidding.
Like, if it turned into, I mean, you're talking about, comics, so it could literally take on a shape somehow, and maybe it's the spirit of the deep takes on the shape or inhabits the garbage patch, and it turns into a big gigantic garbage patch monster, and that is totally within the realm of possibility in comic book
world. Yeah. And even if they went for something more mundane than that, and it was just like, for some reason, some corporation is trying to get something passed so that they can dump all their waste into the ocean, and he's trying to take them on. Like, I would at least take that. But just kind of the vague, we're fighting climate change.
I can see it now. The Aquaman 3 is going to be entirely in a courtroom. He's going to be wearing a suit the entire time. He's just going to be suing corporations.
And Amber Heard's going to be the lawyer.
Yeah, and he's just going to be suing corporations that pollute.
That would be fantastic.
Aquaman runs for Congress.
That's perfect. He's just Arthur. Well, would he be allowed to? Is like I don't know if Atlantis is allowed.
He couldn't be the president. He probably could run for Congress.
He'd have to go. No, he'd have to go to the UN. They probably send him to the UN as some type of special envoy.
He'd be like Secretary General.
Yeah,
or something
special
like that.
envoy.
You know what actually could be cool is something to do with like.
We're talking about
submarines.
Aquaman. I really think they top out with just the fact that it's Jason Momoa,
True.
and that's it. Once you start getting into storylines for Aquaman, it's just like.
Everyone's like, because the character's historically very nerdy in the comics, and like, and if I'm being honest,
talking to fish, man.
If I'm being honest,
they even made the joke of talking to fish.
If I'm being honest, like DC animated is I'm far more preferential to DC animated movies and television, anyways. And like, if you want good Flash, like if you want to see a good version of the Flash, you watch the DC animated world. That's where you go to see the Flash not kind of get nerfed. Granted, I fell off on. I stopped watching the CW Flash after season 3. I didn't even make it through season 3.
I will say I have watched very little DC content, and I don't think anything.
You're a Marvel guy.
I'm not even really a superhero movie guy. Like, I think I stopped watching Marvel after Endgame for the most part.
Oh, that's even far. I didn't even see Endgame in the theaters. I waited for it to come out.
Yeah, I saw Endgame, and then I think I saw No Way Home. Yeah. But I don't think I've seen anything else other than the stuff that was on Disney, like the TV shows.
Yeah.
I watched Loki, and I was like, eh.
I didn't even get through Loki. I didn't get through Winter Soldier. And
I liked Winter Soldier.
Falcon and the Winter Soldier?
Yeah.
Falcon and the Winter Soldier?
I liked both.
The
bad guy in Falcon the Winter Soldier is Antifa.
Yeah.
Like, it's legit Antifa. It's great.
The original Winter Soldier movie is my favorite Marvel movie. As far as I'm concerned, that's when Marvel peaked.
Honestly, the Winter Soldier was really good. I really do think. The Civil War.
Civil
War was
is
good, too.
for me.
I felt the tone was more serious in Winter Soldier. It started once we introduced Peter Parker. It started getting campier. We had to get the Russo.
I didn't mind that because it was
no,
so
it works.
true
It's
to
the character.
The character,
Yep.
Yeah.
you know.
I'm preferential to Winter Soldier. Though if you ever watched it's really funny to watch the behind the scenes. Go watch the making of the airport scene.
Okay.
It's really funny watching them like fake beat stuff up.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Yeah.
It's really funny. So also that, and there's a really good one. I love looking at like how visual effects are done in a lot of these things. And one of my favorite is how they did in Batman vs Superman, where Bruce Wayne runs into the cloud of dust and rubble after Zod takes out the Wayne building, and it's the whole building is built from the whole street is built from scratch. They're not even filming live on a street. It's all done in
CGI,
post.
yeah.
Oh,
well,
yeah.
I mean, there's a very famous picture of Sir Ian McKellen crying on the set of The Hobbit.
Yeah.
Because when they filmed Lord of the Rings, they used all sorts of like perspective and actual
first
like movie
scene-
magic from the 20th century.
That's why it works.
And then they're shooting The Hobbit, and he's shooting his scene where he's sitting around at the table talking to all the dwarves, and he's alone in that room, and everything is green.
Yep.
And he's just crying because the art of theater is being lost. And I look at that, the fact that everything's CGI, all of the stories are just recycled. The writers are striking, but they haven't put anything new out in years. Like, it's absurd how stagnant Hollywood has become.
When they had less, they did more
Yeah.
with less back then because Peter Jackson had to use actual movie magic.
Yep.
It seems like the way the room rotates. Yeah,
I've been watching a lot of art critics and on like people doing lectures and stuff like that, and a lot of it I think is because we have passed away from like modern and gone into postmodern, and postmodernism has been influential in art for long enough where people have kind of said it's kind of said what it can say, because the only thing that postmodern art really allows the viewer to make the decision as to whether it's art or whether it's not, and a lot of times it's critical of art and stuff like that. And when you're just there, or when your whole purpose is to criticize existing art and deconstruct art, it's really tough to make something compelling. And I really feel like they're running out of gas for taking stuff apart and running out of interesting ways to take existing narratives and deconstruct them. I know that I'm kind of on that today, but that's really what I think is going on. There's such a lack of creative vision in movies and stuff, and I think that that's because the postmodern thing has kind of run its course, and we need people to approach art with a new, I guess, positive view of the world.
What's funny about that too is like you say postmodernism tells you that you get to decide whether it's art or not, but they're obsessed with telling you what's art and what isn't. Oh, also we got a $20 super chat here from Rhaegar Targaryen. Says the bad guy in Wonder Woman 1984 was Maxwell Lord, who has basically made Trump. Also, I'd rather see a movie where the villain is an environmental terrorist, like Poison Ivy, Ra's al Ghul, or the Marvel Ultimates version of Thor. I do miss good Ra's al Ghul.
I mean, I think
a good character.
those Batman movies with Ra's al with him kind of and the League of Shadows being the kind of the actual antagonist over the course of 3 movies, I think those are the best Batman movies. I'm a big fan of Ben Affleck. Like Ben Affleck as Batman, I'm into it. Totally buy it. I think he's cool. I'm a fan, man. I'm a fan. I am, but I still
He never
think
gets mentioned. They never mentioned that Liam Neeson in the race swap of Ra's al Ghul there. That's one that doesn't get mentioned in the
Yeah,
Ra's al
true.
Ghul was like Asian, right?
yeah, like because he's played, and then they also had
Al Ghul would suggest he would have been like Middle Eastern.
and then also Matt Nable played him in. I actually liked Matt Nable's performance of him in Arrow, in the show Arrow. He's like, I guess Matt Nable was like a pro soccer player, or sorry, football player. And it's really funny too because like he's a bit older, but like in the early episodes when he's on the show, he's got the cape, or he's got the flowing robes and everything, supposed to look sinister, but he's just got like just rolled out of bed hair. Like, and they didn't figure out until like the last half of the season to like slick his hair back to give him like an actual villain look. Otherwise, it looks like Ra's al Ghul is just like, I'm late. Like, I got to go take over. I got to go destroy. I got to go destroy Star City. Sorry, guys. Crap. Like, he just wakes up and his hair's like this. We got another $20 one from Fresh Meat. Says, boys. Also, for the poll, climate change is a worse villain to movies succeeding than Amber Heard.
Yes.
I mean, I think I don't know if Amber Heard's got her beauty going for her.
I don't.
So,
look, Amber Heard might be pretty, but I don't like her
pretty.
face. Doesn't even like pop into my head.
What?
Oh no!
What? What's happening?
Crisis Party.
we turned
And
it
he forgot
down.
to turn it up.
We turned it down because
It
we were
was
fixing
really
the meter.
loud earlier too.
Well, it's got to be loud, but we were fixing the meter earlier, so
Drag.
when you're fixing the meter, it goes off. So I had to like turn it down. That one's on me.
Bummer.
That one's on me. But yeah, all right, guys. They're saying Raz is Egyptian. I thought he was Middle Eastern.
I mean, Egyptian today would be partially Arabic to a large extent.
All right, let us move on. We got some super chats there. Do you have them pulled up there in the second window?
I can. Yes.
Yeah.
There they are.
There they go.
It took him a second.
All right.
I have them.
Start from the top. I think we're starting off at Deuce Boogaloo. Go ahead.
Me?
Me. All
right, cool. So,
I don't have them.
Phil doesn't have them.
Gotcha.
yet.
Okay.
They haven't given me the approval yet.
Yeah, so Deuce said, Brett, you should share the results of the James Bond poll I did for y'all. I just retweeted it, so it's at the top of my Twitter timeline.
I will check it out after the show today. I asked other people. I remember I got involved in that poll, and I said everyone should put their, like, if you don't like the answers that are in there, put who else you'd like to be cast in there as well. Who would you guys like for... and it's also apparently I'm getting written into the vlog against my will again, but apparently because like I just randomly walked into the room the other day and just said like, so who the hell would you guys cast for James Bond? And they thought it was weird how I just kind of like interrupted a conversation.
Kind of great.
Yeah.
I mean,
You know, I was like, it was before
James
the
Bond,
show.
man.
I mean, I don't know.
No, you have no opinion. This is usually this is a funny one. This is usually one where you can get anybody involved in this. I had a guy, and this is okay. I had a realization that I'm one of those people. I'm going to do my best I've been trying to figure out how I wanted to vocalize this. So I don't get as bothered by race swaps as a lot of other people in the space. As far as I'm concerned, most of the time, at least in my opinion, as long as if the race was not a core tenet to the character beforehand, and they don't make it a core tenet to the character afterwards, I'm more amenable to that.
So I have two, assuming we're going with a younger Bond. But
I have no problem with race swap if the race is not articulated.
That's what I'm saying.
If they're not described. So like I would like the whole.
Oh, you mean in the literature?
Yeah,
like the
Tolkien stuff where they're making Aragorn a black guy, or in was it Magic Cards or whatever.
Yeah.
They describe him as a white guy. If they describe him as a white guy, then leave it alone. If they describe a black guy as a black guy, leave it alone. But if they don't specifically say.
And
and it's not a part, then it's not a big deal,
But here's the problem. Here's why I'm starting to realize that the people who don't want to give no quarter, why they're probably right. So I had a guy who tweeted after I tweeted out that we were covering James Bond because there was an article in which an executive said the next James Bond will not be white, and this guy responds in a very snarky manner and basically says. He makes a bunch of responses and basically says that he called what we were doing basically trafficking in fear mongering, right? Like you're fear mongering about he's like, you're making people angry for no reason. And I said, no, look, I'm just willing. I want to have the discussion. Like whoever, whether you want James Bond to be Idris Elba, whether you want it to be Regé-Jean Page, whether you want it to be Tom Hardy, I don't care. I want to have the discussion with you about it. And his immediate response is like, okay, yeah. Also, like we can make Bond a girl, and or a trans. I
feel like you really can't make Bond a girl.
He immediately went to the farthest realms of the possibilities because he's expecting me. Because he's expecting me to be angry at that. Like he's waiting for me to get angry, and if I don't, he's using that as a way to further his ideological push for it without pushback. So it's like you can't give an inch, otherwise they take a mile.
I think there's some substance to that. I'm not sure if it works in every context, specifically like with James Bond context.
You
but
can't
I do
change.
understand.
You cannot change the fact because if you change the fact that James Bond is a dude
Yeah.
and you make it a woman, then are you changing the sexuality? Are they now gay and is still are they
a
still
womanizer,
seducing?
or is
Are they
this
still
now-
a womanizer,
yeah.
or is she picking up men?
And a promiscuous woman is a completely
Exactly.
different thing to a promiscuous man. Whether or not people want to admit it, there is a significant difference to a promiscuous woman and a promiscuous man, and it speaks totally different things about the character of the person.
Exactly, and that's what I'm saying. Like if you point this out, they're gonna be like, "Oh, you're just you're just making that up. That's not true." But we know it is. We understand that it's fundamentally different.
How would you guys feel about John Boyega?
No, no.
Because the two
Reggae,
I thought.
I'd rather have Reggae Jean Page looks more like what I imagine.
I would much rather see Idris Elba.
I think
too
Idris Elba
old.
will be. Well, that's the
think
thing
he's
is
too
too
old?
old. That's what they're saying about James Bond. Is there are certain people that are getting ruled out because they're too old.
He can't do it because when you sign on to do James Bond, you're not signing on to do one movie. You're signing on to
10.
do 10 to 12 to
Yeah.
15 years as the character. Idris Elba's 52, which means he'll be in his mid-60s
Yeah.
by the time he's done. They're casting him in his late 30s.
So I think then Richard Madden.
No!
Have you seen?
No!
Have you seen the TV show he was in where he played a like secret agent?
If we're talking Citadel, it is the worst show I have ever seen in my entire life.
Okay, so first of all, Game of Thrones is where I primarily know him from.
Well, you
and
said
his performance over there.
Yeah, but you said secret agent, and in that show,
Well, yeah, but
he
I
doesn't
wasn't
cut it.
I wasn't talking about that show.
No. Okay.
There's one that I can't remember the name of it where he's on a train. It might be a movie actually. But no, he did an amazing job in that role.
I don't want to miss it. He looks too much like Sebastian Stan anyway.
Oh my! Fine, Sebastian Stan then.
Not him either.
What?
No.
You are simply nobody can make you happy.
No, they can't. Look, Aaron Taylor Johnson. His name has been floated. He's a little bit too like, dude, where's my Bond? Like he's kind of normal looking. Like
Henry Cavill.
Like too bulky. Would have to lose some of his muscle mass. He has to look more like an everyman. But I'd take him over Richard Madden just because.
Cavill's done well as the bad guy in a couple of
Well, he was
spy
also-
movies.
but he was
in The
also-
Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Yeah, he was in The Man from U.N.C.L.E. But then he was also in Mission Impossible
Yeah.
6, where he was a good bad guy. In fact, that's the mustache that ruined the Justice League movie.
Yeah.
You know that mustache that got ruined when you see it in the Justice League where they have to really badly.
That was the
That was
mustache.
because that was in Mission Impossible. It was in his contract that he had to keep it. He couldn't shave it,
Yeah.
so they had to CGI around it, and they did a really bad job of that. Yeah, like I don't like Richard Madden for that role.
Let's just merge two and do a Mission Impossible Bond where Tom Cruise is Bond.
Dude, I'm
Problem
so down.
solved.
So down.
Like-
So Tom Cruise, you say? I support this idea. All right, what else do we got here? Where did we leave off on?
We got
Gabby.
Gabby Hayes says "Fur de boys."
Thank you.
boys.
The boys.
Yeah.
Boys.
Greg Duvier said, "I am guessing Brett, you get a vacation when Mary comes back."
No. Like. Not really. I mean, I could, but it was like there would have to be a lot of work going into making sure the show can still. We'd have to. Phil will take my spot someday and run the show. We'll have Phil do it. But I'm going I'm going to be going out of town over 4th of July weekend. I'm going to be going home, so we may miss the 5th.
Fantastic holiday.
Yes.
One of the best.
And then let's do one more, Ryan Hinnard, and then we will move on.
Sure. Ryan Hinnard said, "Children old enough to be unsupervised should have a firearm training, and a job."
Perfect.
I don't know how old you guys were when you were allowed to be unsupervised, but I think I was like 10, maybe 8.
Well,
Oh,
and your
no.
parents were like, "Get a job, slacker."
I got a job as soon as I could. I was 15, but like it was because I wanted to have my own money.
What do you mean by unsupervised? Unsupervised at home. I was probably 13 or 14. Unsupervised, like out, like riding my bike around the block and stuff like that. Like 8.
Yeah.
It's 9.
I think they mean like left at home.
Yeah. All right. Well.
Yeah, I was left home alone at age like 7.
No, my parents never would have done that.
think.
I'd have blown the house up.
They're talking about I completely forgot about Man from U.N.C.L.E. I need
It's a
to go back
good
and
movie.
rewatch that. All right, let's hold off. Actually, you know what? Let's do one more. We're getting a little bit behind
Sure,
from
yeah.
Hiroshima Otaru.
Hiroshima Utaru said, "Climate catastrophe has been a thing since the 1800s."
There you go.
Yes. Chan Thomas, Charles Hapgood, those guys. in the 1900s.
And in the chat, they're saying, is Mary busy on the Whatever podcast again? No. Mary is on vacation, taking a well-earned. She's done owning all the ladies on Whatever and making them all, out to be the hussies that they were, and now she's taking a much earned vacation.
Someone made some remark about the women that go on there, and I understand that they look terrible because they do. They do it to themselves, and there are people that I think it was Ashley St. Clair. She's like, it's pretty exploitative, and I do think that there's some justification to that perspective, but they still go on there intentionally. They're already most of the girls that go on there have an OnlyFans that they're trying to promote anyways. They're not expected to be all that bright, They're playing a role.
It's not. If anything, they're exploiting the system to better. It's just a lot of people don't approve of what it is they're exploiting it for.
Yeah,
they're making their own business decisions. That's a conscious choice on their brand, on their mind to push a brand. It's just that the brand is something that a lot of people that work in this space or live in this space might take issue with.
It's probably a terrible idea to go on there and allow people to make complete fools allow people to make a complete fool of you. But it's not just the girls. I mean, I know Destiny went on there, and Destiny's been getting torn apart by a lot of people on the internet. So it's not just young ladies. I
haven't watched it. There was one of the clips I saw. I haven't watched a full episode of the show at all, but one of the clips I saw.
They're for like forever. They're like 5 hours. Yeah. You're never gonna.
One that I saw was one of the Tate style guys who's look at me with my money and everything. And there was a woman who seemed to be more conservative who was asking him well, why shouldn't you be faithful to a woman and everything? And he couldn't answer. And I was like, man, people on both sides look bad on this show.
I mean,
women, and conservatives, liberals, everybody looks terrible. They're all just entitled and narcissistic for the most part.
Yeah.
Not to say that about Mary, to be clear, but
it's not
for most of the people I've seen.
It isn't everybody. That's true. I mean, there are people that fare better and fare worse. But again, it's just like you said, the Tate kind of dudes, the red pill guys, or whether it be, someone like Destiny.
It's always kind of a caricature of.
There's people talking about all the chicks or all the dudes that his wife has banged or whatever.
Oh, no.
Yeah, apparently. I don't even think that she has. I think that they have a polyamorous some kind of thing or whatever, and she sleeps with other girls or whatever is the deal. I don't know what it is. It's not for me. It's not my.
Could not be.
I don't care. But the point is, it's an equal opportunity clowning event. You go on there, you talk about your personal life, and people are going to make memes about it. People are going to make jokes about it. So
is the exposure worth the memes? That's what you have to decide. Is the exposure you're going to get for it worth the clowning that you're going to get later? Unless you're like...
A lot of people do not do that calculation very well.
No.
And not everybody is... Like Mary's the smart one who's there, who's principled, intelligent, is well-spoken, and can make her views heard in a cogent manner. And a lot of them just haven't had the experience in doing that and don't realize, especially when you're put up against somebody who does have strong morals, does have a strong belief in right and wrong, and can explain it in a very, very intelligent manner. That's a very, very difficult person to go up against when you're trying to explain a lifestyle that you don't even yourself understand well enough to be able to explain it to other people. And then you get Mary, who just makes them all look bad because she's just smarter than all of them. All right, let's move on, shall we? So do not leave your daughters alone with any of these men that we are going to talk about. First things first, Arnold, Arnie the Governor, I'm now calling him the Gropinator. I like that better. He says, groping women was wrong. It was bullish. Forget all the excuses. It was just wrong, he says. Well, I'm glad he's come to that conclusion now, 20 years later. You know, is it hard? Does it ever feel like a fever dream to anyone that this dude was the governor of California? A Republican governor of California, might I add?
Considering Reagan was also a governor of California, they have a tendency to do this, so I'm not too shocked.
So they'll pick Republicans, but just as
only
long as
they're
famous.
actors.
Yes, okay. The Gipper and the Groper, that's what we've got here. Somebody should make that movie.
Although Reagan might have been a Democrat when he was governor of California.
I don't know.
I wasn't around.
So it says in Netflix's upcoming Arnold Schwarzenegger documentary series called Arnold, the actor and former California governor somewhat apologizes. I like that. He's like, he half apologizes for groping women in the past.
I'm partially sorry.
5 days before the 2003 California governor's election, the LA Times published a report in which 6 women accused him of groping and humiliating them. He said at the time the reports were made up and he never grabbed anyone. Well, that's just a lie. I'm sure he's grabbed plenty of people. I saw him pick up John Connor at least once. Like, you know what I'm saying. Although he admitted he behaved badly sometimes in the past. This is what his quote says. He says, "My reaction in the beginning, I was kind of defensive." Well, I wonder why. He says, now in the 3-part Netflix documentary, today I can look at it and kind of say it doesn't really matter what time it is. If it's Muscle Beach 40 years ago or today, that was wrong. It was bullshit. Forget all the excuses. It was just wrong.
It's wrong.
It is bullshit. I did not grope her. I did not.
Oh, hi, Mark. Oh, hi, Mark.
I get it. Like it was wrong back then. It is wrong. But I mean, I really feel like it's like you're coming out and saying this stuff now when it's extremely safe. For him. Like,
it's
I mean,
no longer
how
a
old is he
for him.
75.
He's in his late 70s.
I mean, he's not. It's like what? He's not going to lose anything. He has nothing to. There's nothing riding on him saying this. So.
It's not like a brave thing for him to come out and be like, I'm sorry that I lied in the past when it actually affected me.
You know, from what I understand, it's not like it wasn't like a aggravated rape or anything. It's like if he's, groping people, touching people against their will, that's assault and it's bad. I'm not trying to make excuses, but it's a pretty safe environment for him to say that it's bad now as opposed to,
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good that he's saying it's bad, but it also feels very manufactured that this was a way for them to make him somehow still the good guy despite doing something wrong.
The other thing that I thought was interesting about this is it says a lot about the news cycle in our politicized climate. So it says when he announced he was running for governor, so it says, personally, I was surprised that it didn't have more of an effect on the election. I thought that more people would be offended themselves, says a Los Angeles Times reporter, Carla Hall. When Arnold announced he was running for governor, the staff of the LA Times immediately went into high gear to start looking into stories that we had heard about for years, but no one actually investigated them fully. So what that tells me, ladies and gentlemen, is that if you have been attacked by a famous man, they're only going to care if you are then choosing to run for office.
We saw this with a bunch of politicians recently.
There's a really gross perspective that might have something to do with it. There's a lot of people that look at that kind of stuff and still think, it's not that big of a deal. And when I say a lot of people, I mean a lot of women that also are kind of like, it's not that big of a deal. So,
also the last 2 presidents to be elected had people accuse them of sexual assault. Like,
whatever happened to Tara Reid?
It's become like a whole strategy now that like you hold on to that until the person runs for office, which is just mind-boggling. Like, no, that's something that should be handled immediately. This is a legitimate crime. Don't just, if you're the media, don't just sit on it because you can.
It doesn't help that all the stuff that happened to Justice, or all the accusations that went to Justice Kennedy and all of that stuff, when it seems like all of that was nothing. Again, I don't know for sure, but that's what it seems like. That it was all just manufactured because they didn't want him to be confirmed. And so then it just becomes cynical politics. And so people are left, all right, is this real? Is this just someone playing politics? Is this
Justice Kavanaugh, where there's suddenly a dorm room full of people running?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
So those kind of stories hurt the credibility of all people that would say, hey, I was a victim or whatever. And it's a bad thing, but it's a reality that we live in.
But I have a problem with the media claiming to be on the side of fighting for good. They frame it that way, right?
Yeah.
Well, how many movies did he work on between this time that they just let go until he decided that they decided it was a worthwhile risk to put this dude, if we're looking at it from their perspective, not from another person's perspective, they see him as some type of predator. They need to do something about it. They need to go talk to the media about it. How many movies did he work on? How many women did he work alone with before they decided that him running for governor was enough of an impetus to start these conversations?
But that's the thing. I mean, again, like, not only there's another angle to think about here, which is that it's ridiculous that they've been hearing these rumors for years and not acting on it. Then they finally do, and they're like, man, this really didn't have the impact we expected it to. But here's the thing about governors: they can be impeached. You can take them out of office. So if you genuinely believed that this was a problem and not something that was just expedient for you politically, then you should have continued to investigate it and continued to dig up dirt and kept reporting on it. That, like, if you are certain that somebody did this and they are currently in office, you shouldn't be like, well, we tried. No, keep pushing.
And he's like, he's an actor. So it's not like this is not something that would have gotten you headlines. If we're taking the cynical approach and what they want is headlines, it's not like they wouldn't have gotten the headlines from him being an actor, not just a dude who's running for office. You could still say, look, Terminator accused of crime. Terminator.
I think that the time has something to do with it too, because there was a time where if you were an actor, like I think in the 90s, it's likely, especially early 90s, late 80s, if someone had accused Arnold Schwarzenegger of groping them, I think that there would have been a whole lot of brushing it aside and from both men and women. Whether or not that's the right course of action, is not the case. I think that's just would have been the reality.
So I did look up what the articles that came out at the time were. And I think the problem might be that they do say stuff like women say Schwarzenegger groped, humiliated them. And I'm like, I feel like a better article title would have been The Gropinator, because that would have gotten people to click.
Yeah, people have actually looked at it.
And then people would have looked at it and read it, whereas for this, people might be like, somebody's just accusing another celebrity of something. Like
it does sensationalize.
You come out and you're like, The Gropinator, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Predator.
But see now,
because now we're getting multiple movies involved.
Picture it here with his good friend Harvey Weinstein, just hanging out.
I agree with you, and I understand what you're saying, but I think that's probably not a good thing.
No,
you need to have like an ironclad case,
like the the Predator.
You'd have to be able to go into a court and prove that. Yeah. But at the same time, like, if National Enquirer can say it.
But did you see that Danny Masterson was just convicted after 20 years of R word, of something that happened 20 years ago? And a lot of people believe that it's just like Scientology getting back at him because they think he was like trying to get his way out.
I have been told a few times recently on my channel that I really should not do anything about Scientology. Like,
at all?
Because somebody asked, they were like, could you look into Scientology? And I went, oh, sure. And then a whole bunch of people were like, don't do it. Do not. They will kill you. They will end your career. They will lie about you. They will come after. They will dig up every piece of dirt. And I was like, okay. Yeah. I'm a little more scared of Scientology now than I am the government.
Yeah.
Because...
Well, we're safe here because I'm a Tom Cruise stan, and since Tom Cruise is a Scientologist, I'm probably given a free pass. No, that's probably not true. But like, as far as I'm concerned, the media, shame on them for always claiming the moral high ground when it's proven time and time again that your supposed moral high ground absolutely has strings attached, and what you care about is headline and making copy and what's going to play the best to your audience. And I have no problem with that. I have a problem with you doing it under a veil of supposed moral superiority. Mm-hmm. That bothers me. That's just my personal take on it. Yeah. Also, what other movies? Like, so we've got The Predator.
We got The Gropinator.
There's so many. Can we work Kindergarten Cop in there? But I don't think he was accused of anything that would involve that. So.
He was in The Expendables. Can you...
Can
you do anything with that?
I don't know. There's Arnie, man. Now I'm gonna have to go back and watch there was we had a Crisis Party sound effect one week that was. Oh, also I have a picture in my room of it's Calvin and Hobbes, but Calvin is Dutch and Hobbes is the Predator, and it's Calvin with a little squirt gun saying "Get to the choppa." It's amazing.
Nice.
It's amazing. All right. And speaking of other people that we should probably
Conan the Destroyer.
There you go.
Oh, God. All right, we got to move on. Let's go.
All right, guys.
Raw deal.
If we're talking about somebody else that you don't want to leave your daughters or wives alone with, we are going to talk about the lead singer of Rammstein, right? Right?
Yep.
How do you pronounce it?
Till. Rammstein. Rammstein is, if you want to say it like the Germans, I guess it's
that's how I
Rammstein,
say it.
But I would say it Rammstein.
Yeah, because we'd say we have Rammstein Air Base here in America.
Yes.
So there. So it says accused
no, Rammstein Air Base is in Germany.
But I'm saying, but it's an American Air Base.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. Okay.
Is it named after the band?
Go on.
I have no idea. That would be amazing. So it says...
it's not named after the band.
I don't know.
Oh, we had $20.
Listen, you never know.
We have a $20 one here from Clint Torres. Says, ever since Arnold said screw your freedoms in regard to COVID policies, I have no interest in anything he says. You can take the Austrian out of Austria, but you can't take the authoritarian out of an Austrian.
Listen, Germany has produced a lot of terrible ideas.
So, okay, so the lead singer's name is Till of Rammstein, and he is accused of very bad things by this woman. And it says, Twitter user Shelby Lynn, 24, accused Linderman, age 60, and his crew of her Twitter and Instagram accounts, claiming that her drink was spiked with drugs when the Irish fan attended the band's gig in Lithuania in what they call Row Zero. And that's where this story gets really interesting, because it seems as if they just find these beautiful women for Row Zero, and they bring them up there. It says Row Zero is the name of given to a special restricted space directly in front of the stage, reserved for a group of women chosen by a person identified by Lynn as Elena Makiva. Makiva, whose Instagram account reads casting director. I'm sorry.
It's not
I'm
good.
sorry. This is awful.
It's really bad.
Like you're leaning into it, lady. Like you're Ghislaine Maxwell.
The casting director was a little on the nose.
Yeah, reportedly uses social media to recruit young women for Row Zero so participants can celebrate with the musicians before or after the show. Well, how do you define celebrate? Right?
Well.
Also, the fact that the question "How old are you?" was asked.
First question she asked, she's like, "How old are you? Where are you from?"
Bugged me a little bit.
Yep.
Wait, why does that bug you?
Because she's making sure that they're old enough, so there's absolutely sexual intentions.
Yeah.
Yeah, but isn't it better than like being like, okay, we're just gonna grab anybody?
I guess you shouldn't be grabbing you shouldn't be grabbing anyone specifically if it's just women. Like, are they bringing men there too?
Why?
I'm saying, like, is it just specifically for the purpose of sex?
Okay, so the purpose of as a person that is in a band and has been around stuff like that, it is not like these women are gonna. Well, I can't speak for them, but it is likely that it was not okay. Backstage, now take your clothes off.
Right.
It is more than likely these are attractive women. Put these attractive women in a place where the guys in the bands and on the tour can actually interact with them without having other dudes around that are going to take up their time. Because I tell you what, if you're a dude in a band and you want to meet a girl or want to go talk to someone. If you are trying to talk to a girl, there will be dudes that are way more aggressive than any of the girls will be, and they will take up all of your time. Okay. So if the guys in Rammstein are just like bringing them to a place where they can actually talk to them, that's one thing. Yeah. Then you get into a totally different thing of, are they putting stuff in their drinks? Well, that obviously is beyond, it's not even a question, you know what I mean?
So here's what she says. Says, Elena Makiva invited her to join on Row Zero. I sent her a message on Instagram last week asking her how on earth to get to the after parties and that I would like to be considered. She asked my age and where I was from, and when I confirmed, she sent me a link to a WhatsApp group. Says, Lynn says she was invited to a party during which she met Lindemann, who wanted to have sex with her. The frontman reportedly acted aggressively when Lynn refused his advances. She suspects that her drink was spiked, and she has no memory of part of the evening and was left bruised after the concert. She also claims to have vomited for 24 hours after the gig. And this is made worse, as we talked about earlier, by the lyrics from his poem. Very bad.
I've heard stories, but I don't know the guys, so...
So did you have the poem pulled up there that he read?
Yes, I can grab it in a second. Sorry, I had her Twitter account pulled up. I was just looking through some of this stuff she said.
What's her name again?
Shelby Lynn.
It's Shelby Lynn 69666.
Yeah, the poem thing is that in 2020, I guess a poem that Lindemann released, I read at some point, I like to sleep with you while you sleep, a bit Rofinol in a glass of wine. You can't move at all, and you sleep. It's a blessing.
Oh,
which is really there's no charitable way to read that.
No, not really.
That is quite literally, I like to date assault women.
Yeah.
Like,
And what do you like in this case? Like, what do you do? Like, do you are they even going to be able to prosecute them? He lost his book deal. He had a publisher for a book deal. His publisher has pulled out. There's no proof here that he did anything.
German speech laws are very different from ours. I don't know. I know politically there's certain stuff that you can get arrested for saying over there.
Yeah.
I don't know when it comes to this kind of thing how much creative license there is for an artist. But I wouldn't be totally surprised if there is a law in Germany that would allow him to be at least fined or something.
But the thing is,
or to allow this to be used as evidence.
It also says, like, I don't know the actual demographics of the room. It says she suspects that her drink was spiked. Does that mean that he spiked it? Does that mean that how many people were in that room? Like,
yeah. So again, accusing one person is really tough. If she felt like she was assaulted, then obviously right after she should have got a rape kit, just to make sure. And it's one of those things where unless you have evidence, what are you going to do? She's saying that this happened, but she's not even making an accusation against anyone in particular other than, hey, I went backstage to a party and it seems like I was drugged and I was sore afterwards. And that's the information that we have right now. So to blame any individuals, I don't see how you could.
Is he held responsible because he's the lead?
It could totally just be like, he was hitting on her and she turned him down, and that was the last thing that she remembers. So, I mean, it's an awful situation to be in for her. Especially not knowing and stuff. So,
but there are more here. It says Lynn's testimony has triggered more reports, which have revealed that her case could be a part of a systematic process of abuse. The woman says German public broadcaster NDR and Daily, I can't pronounce that, published an exclusive report with more than a dozen testimonies of women who experienced mirror Shelby Lynn. So they're saying there's multiple women who are saying that this has happened. The report uncovers a process to recruit attractive young women. That's obviously what that Makiva lady was doing earlier. Many of them as young as 22 as participants in after-show parties who are reportedly offered alcohol and illegal drugs.
I have a problem with being as like that as young as 22. It's like,
you're
look,
an adult.
you're an adult.
That's an adult.
That like you're a grown up, and you don't get to have this like sometimes I'm a grown up and sometimes I'm not, and that's something that I've seen people doing more and more in these contexts. It's like, oh, this person's 24, 23, 22, whatever. It's
they
like,
were just 22. Yeah,
that's an adult. Like there's
that does not make it okay if somebody violated you.
Exactly.
But it absolutely it speaks to the decisions and the situations that you put yourself in.
And especially with American culture, we've kind of created for ourselves a little period where you're an adult, but there's still kind of a buffer where we all look at like when you're 18 to 21 where it's like, okay, these people are adults, but they might not have the maturity of an adult with experience in the world. Like we've kind of created a pseudo barrier there.
Once you're old enough to go into bars, once you're 21.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Once you're past that, you had 4 years.
Yeah, you can't sit there and be like, oh, it was this young person. It's like, look, that's just trying to add a context that doesn't actually
bad enough
exist.
It's bad enough on its own. The crime is bad enough on its own. It doesn't need to matter that they're just over the age of 21. The crime is bad.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what matters. The other thing did you see
if it were
the
like
story?
as young as 18, then I'd be like,
and it's like if you're like, oh, well, you shouldn't go out that late. You're only 21. Oh, look out! It's gonna be all hell's gonna break loose. So you can't have it both ways. You either have to be an adult with agency, and granted, it's arbitrary. These are arbitrary ages and stuff like that, and you may disagree.
The human brain doesn't stop developing until you're 25.
Yeah, you may disagree about when it is, but we do have to make an arbitrary decision, and you cannot have it both ways. Once we've decided on something as a society, like whatever it may be, you can't have it both ways. You have to be like, okay, this is where the line is. This is what we have to work with.
Did you see that Al Pacino's got a 29-year-old girl pregnant? And my favorite part of that is they're like he's taking advantage of her. I'm like, he's closer to dementia. It's more likely that the 30-year-old woman is taking advantage of him. Yeah, like I don't know what you're talking about.
Is she worth 20, 30 million or whatever?
So one of the articles called her a 29-year-old teenager. Huh? I'm not kidding you.
Unreal. Unreal.
They're basically conflating
As a
the idea.
25-year-old, I'm insulted.
Exactly.
You eat again, and it's you eat, and it's all. It's like you can't make these arguments unless you're going to be able. You're going to accept arguments of you're only 25 years old. You shouldn't be allowed to do this. Yeah. You're only 22 years old. You shouldn't be. No. That never happens. There's never a limiting principle about the agency that someone has when they're at an age if they're looking to do something. There's only a limiting principle when it's someone that's older, and it's only a limiting principle when it's a situation where they are talking about their age as a bad thing.
Back in the day, I feel like when Anna Nicole Smith was, that was when they would look at her as the person who was clearly using the old guy for his money. Mm-hmm. Nowadays, I don't think that same logic would apply. I think that they would treat her as the victim now and say, I think society's shifted in that.
Anna Nicole Smith too, that guy was he was not moving fast. No. That dude was not. All
the Viagra in the world wasn't helping that dude. It just wasn't. And in fact, there was an episode of, I don't remember, it was at Las Vegas, where this guy basically says he gets out of prison he wins a settlement. He's 80 years old, and he gets out of prison for wrongful conviction, gets all this money, and he's dating a 21-year-old or something like that. And they're both very clearly using she's using him, and he's this guy's friend goes she's using you for your money, right? He's like, good luck, I'm giving it all to charity. He's like, but I'm going to enjoy it while it lasts.
Who cares, right?
Yeah, so this is what it goes on. So Cynthia A, it's a pseudonym, then age 22, remembers a concert in 2020. Well, that was during COVID. Then now they're just breaking COVID protocols if that's going on. Now I'm really upset. During which Lindemann beckoned her to join him backstage. She recalls being taken into an adjoining room for a sexual encounter that she couldn't refuse. I thought, oh my God, this hurts. Let's hope it's over soon, she says. Everything happened so quickly.
Then
violently.
That's rape.
Yes.
Although I am a little confused on the wording there, because the way it's worded makes it sound like she was like, oh, well, I can't say no to this, which I'm annoyed with the journalist at that point.
Did he forcibly keep you in the room?
Was it that you literally were incapable of refusing? Because in that case, that's rape.
Yeah.
Should have gone.
That is...
Yeah. And it's clearly rape. There's no two ways about it. If you can't refuse, that is coercion, and the way that this is being framed is not really it's rape, but it kind of is. It's just all the way that it's being reported is all really, really, really bad.
Yeah, I feel like they buried the lead on that one, because of what is said here, that seems to be the worst thing.
It would be.
Maybe it's because it was an anonymous, somebody who reported it anonymously. But I will say,
using a pseudonym.
I do want to, say one thing, because I know people tend to have the question, well, why didn't you go get a rape kit? Why'd you go to the police? When you have been put through that, it is extraordinarily difficult to come forward, and not necessarily because it's going to be a hard process. It will, the actual prosecution process, but because the second anybody finds out you reported it, you hear horrible things about yourself from people you've known for your entire life, because people don't want to believe it all the time. So for a lot of people, they don't come forward, not because they think that nobody will get prosecuted, but they're afraid of that social blowback, and some people even have panic attacks when they talk about it. So I do want to say that I think it's important to not get on anybody for not reporting it, because it is just kind of it can be so devastating.
Then the hard part is then they want to speak out later, but then then they have to worry about libel.
Yeah,
because
the people who falsely report and the people who talk about it as if this is somebody looks at them wrong and they're like, I was assaulted. Those people really make it hard for everybody else who actually is a victim to get justice.
It's and I the joke, and it's a very, very bit of dark humor, but I'm just every 80s rock star has to wake up and just be is today the day? That, who was it? Was it Aerosmith? Steven Tyler got accused of something
by
horrible,
a 14-year-old
or something like that, came out recently. A lot of them have to live in just fear that something that something that happened that long ago is going to come out about them, and they're going to be finally
especially if you're talking about dudes that are in their 70s. You know,
Yeah.
the possibilities. I mean, look at Jerry Lee Lewis or whatever married a 13-year-old, his 13-year-old cousin, and it's like people were talking about that like it was bad, but it's like he still got away with it, and they actually got married.
Elvis married what's her name when they were not Priscilla when she was 14.
Yeah, teenagers.
Or no, they didn't marry when they were 14. Like they were dating. She moved there at a very young age.
And my point is that I'm not saying that stuff is right, but it is reasonable to say, hey, look, the way that society behaved 50 years ago was different to the way that it behaves today. And to be like 50 years ago when society accepted this thing happened and now it's looked at as bad. That can be a problem. That's not to say that if there was a rape 50 years ago that the rape is okay.
Exactly.
It's talking about the way that people looked at consensual relationships.
Yep.
You know,
there's
Jerry
one song I will
Seinfeld.
always point people to, which is that there is a song from the 1980s by the band Winger called 17.
yeah, she's only 17.
And the entire song was written by a 27-year-old about hooking up with a 17-year-old.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, things were different. I'm not saying that was okay, but things were different. The things you could just openly say, like...
Well, I mean, whether or not it's okay is really something that...
Because 17 would have still been, in most states, would have
Yeah.
still been a legal age of consent.
Yeah,
So it's a more...
It's a little
then
creepy, though.
Then it's the question of where your morality
Yeah.
lies and not a question of whether it was legal or not.
and when and what and the time that's going on, you know, because nowadays it's like people are like, yeah, that is kind of creepy, but like, 30 years ago, people weren't like, oh, that's creepy. It just wasn't thought of as creepy.
Look at the way that they treat male teachers and female teachers differently. Whenever a male teacher has sex with a student, it's sexual assault, it's rape, it's all these things. Whenever a female teacher has sex with a male student, it's always called sexual misconduct, which is softening the blow of the language considerably.
And there are a lot of people that talk about sexual assault against men, and when I say men, I mean young men, or probably better to say teenage boys.
Yeah.
And I get it; it's wrong, and I know that there are people that are going to push back on this, but I really don't think that it is as much of a violation of a male as it is a violation of a female. Right? Like if a 25-year-old woman has sex with a 16-year-old boy, it is not the same type of violation that a 25-year-old man having sex with a 16-year-old girl would be. And people may not like it, and that's fine, but one is really just seems like it is actually a coercive violation. The other one, a 16-year-old boy is going to be diving in like he's going to beg.
But is it also like, do you consider it that way because the 16-year-old boy would have more of a physical capability of getting, like, we're not even talking about consent, like, we're talking about consent, like, what would have been construed as consensual from both of them? Like, even though they can't legally consent, they agreed to it in the moment.
I think part of it comes.
And a boy can get away from that situation easier than a girl can.
Maybe, but I do think that the repercussions of a male having sex are different to the repercussions of a female having sex. A woman could get pregnant, and that could put her life in danger. A young girl had the repercussions for a woman having sex are so much greater than for a male having sex.
There's also definitely a worry about physical violence.
Well,
that young men who are involved with older women don't have.
Yeah, but it comes back to like the reason that people have a kind of a gut reaction to rape when it comes to raping a woman is because of the danger. Until only recently, only the past 50 years, right? It's been dangerous for women to get pregnant. There's the possibility of bleeding to death when you have kids. Like, there's just a lot of significant problems that women have to face if they have sex and get pregnant that men just don't have to have. And that is something that human beings know. Yeah. Right? It's just like, you can't deny that women can die in childbirth. Yeah. You can't deny that if a woman has a baby, she has to take care of the baby. The man can split. He can be a piece of garbage and run away. But a woman doesn't really have that option. And there is a significant, and I think that is a significant factor into why we have such a gut level, like, you can't do that to young women. Whereas with a young man, it's like, look, you shouldn't do that, and it might mess with the kid's head, but it's not the same kind of danger that women face.
Wasn't
I
there
still think they should be prosecuted the same from a constitutional perspective.
That's fine.
Wasn't there a case where like a teacher got pregnant from a student and then the kid had to pay alimony even though she was charged like afterwards? Like I could be misremembering that. Like a kid, like even though he was a teenager, she was charged with statutory rape, but when she got out, he had to pay child support or something like that. I feel like that was. I remember reading something like that. All right, so let's actually before we go, I do want to read their statement, Rammstein's statement. So they said, with regard to the allegations circulating on the internet, we can rule out the possibility that what is being claimed, we can rule out. Maybe they mean we can't rule out the possibility that what is being claimed took place in our environment. We are not aware of any official investigations into this matter. That's about as boilerplate of a statement as you can make. So, you know. Also,
what does that mean? We're not aware of any official, we're not aware of the police investigating it?
Yeah. This is we can rule out, but I'm thinking they meant we can't. It says, with regard to the allegations circulating on the internet about Vilnius, I'm guessing that was the location.
Yeah.
We can rule out the possibility that what is being claimed took place in our environment. They stated, we are not aware of any official investigations at this time. I feel like they meant can't.
Well, let me. With regard to the allegations, we can't. So that would be zu dem in Netz kurzierenden Vorwürfen zu Vilnius können wir. Yeah, there's. It doesn't look to me like there's any negative in that. So it would read, we can rule out, I think. So
they're saying they're okay. Well, we'll have to wait and see. But it's the lead singer. He lost his book deal and these things. And I don't know about that. I don't know about the book publisher just dropping him because of that. But if more allegations have come out, you know, then we still get into the idea of like, well, he hasn't actually been proven guilty in a court of law. Do you deserve to lose all your endorsements and all of these things when we know that, you know, there are cases where people lie? We don't know if that's the case here, but it is worth at least considering. So, all right, guys, let us do some super chats. Got the next one up there? I believe we left off at, what did we leave off at? The Almighty Truffles. He says, let me put that on here. He says, are y'all on Rumble? If not, why? Phil equals 10 out of 10. You're a 10 out of 10, Phil.
Cheers.
He thinks you're a perfect 10.
I appreciate the support. Thank you.
All right. The Dexy guy says,
oh, hey, I know that guy. I know that username.
You can read that one.
Sure.
Oh, wait. No, I think oh, man, I missed a bunch, I think. Hold on. No, the Dexy guy. It says, I don't know who Al Gore is.
At this point, I'm too afraid to ask.
Well, Al Gore, what a guy. See, Florida was controversial even before DeSantis took over.
Isn't Florida supposed to be underwater now?
Yeah, by now.
Al Gore?
Well, why were they all buying beachfront property? I have questions.
No matter what your thoughts are on climate change, Al Gore was so out of pocket to say that like Manhattan would be underwater by 2018.
No one has done more damage to the argument for climate change than Al Gore. Like the whole movie, An Inconvenient Truth, all that stuff. You can go watch that movie and you can see all that stuff was all BS. None of it happened. He's a liar, and he has done more damage to the climate change agenda than any other human being alive.
What a guy.
Thank you, Al Gore. We appreciate it.
Sketch Therapy says, why is communism a fix for climate change, racism, and sexism?
Because what communism actually is an excuse to take away your freedom and your liberty. So if you can't buy a car that can produces too much CO2 or whatever, you know.
All right. Ketamono says, it's like the population bomb. It's been proven wrong so long ago, and they still believe it because it was written by a quote intellectual. Who wrote the population bomb? Does anybody know?
That doesn't sound familiar to me. I can look it up though.
These intellectuals. See, what you got to do is you got to go and look up Jordan Peterson on Twitter because he's out of pocket on Twitter all the time. That's what you want your intellectuals to be.
Jordan Peterson is actually pretty hilarious on Twitter. He gets some stuff wrong and he makes some he gets trolled a little bit.
My favorite part is I picture him in his his dual colored suits tweeting on his phone with his legs crossed. And doing like this as he tweets, like he does this, like, you know, the head bob. It's not obvious.
The book has been criticized since its publication for an alarmist tone and over the subsequent decades for inaccurate assertions and failed predictions. The Ehrlichs themselves stand by the book despite the flaws identified by its critics, with Paul stating in 2009 that perhaps the most serious flaw in The Bomb was that it was too optimistic about the future, despite having predicted catastrophic global famines that never came to pass.
Hate it when that happens. Wait, wasn't there a...
No. The problem is that we were too right that we were wrong.
See, I think I think what it is I think that in 2012 the Mayans actually did, but instead of ending the world, it just shifted the timeline.
I have thoughts about 2012.
What are your thoughts?
Don't get me started. I think that so in 2012, the NDAA repealed the Moot-Smith, I think Act.
Propaganda?
It updated
the propaganda?
it updated the federal government's ability to propagandize the American people just at the same time that the cell phone was put into your pocket with the most powerful mind control device
They're
ever.
like, here's your iPhone 4.
Wait, listen. It was the like button is the most powerful mind control device.
true.
It's that is what did it. So you give the government the authority to propagandize people, and you give the social media companies incentive, which is just the government basically saying, look, we'll pump money into you. We'll give you access to government, benefits, and you end up with the government just pumping propaganda into people's brains via the cell phone.
Wait, I actually get to do it this time when it makes sense. Thanks, Obama.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Obama.
Carnell says if studios wanted to capitalize on a climate change narrative, they'd make a live action Captain Planet. And with all the diverse Planeteers they can drool over. Yeah, I haven't gone back and rewatched it. I've been told that is the wokest of the, like, if you rewatch it, it's woke even for
Captain Planet?
Yeah, it's woke even for modern times, let alone back when it came out. So, Professor Dolt says Mr. Freeze needs an origin movie. I agree. Actually, I wouldn't give Mr. Freeze a movie. I would give Mr. Freeze a TV show.
Good idea.
I would give him an 8-part series on HBO. Oh, sorry, Max. It's not HBO Max anymore. Iroshimu Utaru says Aquaman 3. Mr. Aquaman goes to Washington. We could do that.
Yep, that's really that's where the arc should go. It should end up with him in a courtroom fighting against oil companies or something like that.
I can't wait. Corey Anderson says, hear me out. James Bond played by Rowan Atkinson. Ooh.
I mean, I'd take it.
I think they should just... Somebody else said...
There's a movie that is like a James Bond spoof that he's in. I can't remember what it's called.
Mr. Bean?
No. Get Smart. No, I don't remember.
Get Smart's the Steve Carell one.
But okay, no. There's another person suggested James Bond starring Monk, not Tony Shalhoub. Monk. So it's just James Bond, but it's with the character of Monk.
Johnny English Reborn. There we go.
Okay. Serenko Production says, thanks for showing Luna again. Too bad Mary keeps missing out. Maybe third time's a charm. Great job as always, Brett, and guests. Thank you.
Cheers.
All right, let us hold off on the rest and we will come back. Let's talk about Sydney Sweeney, because this is great. I feel like if Mary was here, she would love this topic.
Probably.
She would love to talk about this. Sydney Sweeney recalls the time her dad and granddad walked out watching Euphoria. Well, I wonder why. Right? Like, it says, Sweeney, who shot to a number of nude scenes as Cassie in Euphoria, told today's Willie Geist that her father actually walked out of the room when he saw the show with her granddad. See, fatherless behavior. Even if you've got a dad, this is a problem. Like, if your dad was doing his job, I feel like Mary's argument would be, if your dad was doing his job, he would have raised you properly and you wouldn't have gone and done the nude scenes to begin with. That's my opinion. That's my judgment on what I think Mary would have said. I have no idea whether that's if that's what she would have said.
That sounds right.
She says, I didn't prepare my dad at all. She laughed. It's hilarious when my dad is forced to look at me naked. Like,
yeah, it's not a laughing matter. Like, it's kind
of a laughing matter.
I can see. Well, here's the thing. Like, if you're sitting around with your friends having a beer, it can be a laughing matter. I feel like in the media... Yeah. Like, that's a man with a reputation and his own friends and his own community, and he now has to deal with the way that this is going to backfire on him. Also, like, I tell my parents when to not watch a show I've done. Like, immediately after
You
I've
get
done
naked
it.
on camera a lot?
Well, no, but if there's anything that I talk about that I like feel like they probably wouldn't want to hear,
Yeah.
then I'm like, hey, just so you know, this one's probably one to
I
skip.
never warn my mom.
You know what? You know what's,
If I say things that are like off the hook or whatever, or if I share some
you know
meme.
what society is? You know what Hollywood has really done? This is my new conspiracy theory. I have long since believed that Hollywood does in fact want to promote the idea that you should have a chosen family and not a biological family, that you should choose your chosen family over your biological family. You know how they're doing it with regular people? They're making it so they can't watch anything with their parents without being worried about seeing naked people. Like if you can't watch anything with mom and dad because titties might come out of nowhere and you don't want to have the awkward thing where you both pretend like you're not looking at what you're looking at, well then you just stop watching things with your parents and it drives you apart, and Hollywood gets to play their role in driving a wedge between you and your biological parents. This is Hollywood. This is Hollywood. It's their fault.
I just think it's like, it's wild to me how prevalent sex scenes are in TV.
It's so unnecessary most of the time too. Like almost all the time.
I've written scripts for 2 different TV shows and a movie, and at no point in any of them did I feel like a sex scene was necessary or even beneficial to the plot.
Yeah.
And in fact, I've actually written 2 movies, and that one, the second one was actually the first one I ever wrote, but the whole plot is following these 2 characters on a camping trip. They're in college. It's a guy and a girl. They have feelings for each other. And I had the chance to write in a sex scene. It's a horror movie.
Yeah.
I didn't, because I was like, I don't see any way in which this helps.
I do wonder for the, like, I remember her grandma or like one of her grandparents basically said that she, I kid you not, quoted like saying like, she's got the best tits in the business. Like her own family said that. So, you know, the whatever works. It works for them, but the like dad and grandpa walked out of watching it. But I feel like a warning might have been fair. Like, hey, dad, like this is not like they're just seeing a photo. This is you simulating stuff that you as a parent don't want to see your kid doing.
Right.
That seems like a thing you might want to warn them about.
Yep.
Thoughts?
Yep.
Like you're saying you don't warn your mom when you say things that are out of pocket, and that's way different than than what we're talking about here.
There is almost zero chance of my wiener showing up in my mom's feed.
Yeah, like there's jokes I'll make, there's, you know, things I'll say, but there are certain things I would not do.
She says, my dad and grandpa turned it off and walked out, but my grandma, she's a big supporter of mine. Have you noticed a trend? Like one of the things that I've noticed is like a lot of women in Hollywood, they stay young by like, it's like, oh, look at this middle-aged woman with her daughter. They're like twins and they do photo shoots together. And it's like a way for the adult to like clutch, like hold on to their youth by seeing like, oh, you look just, you look like sisters. You could be the same age, because it's a way to like delude themselves into thinking that they're younger than they are in a lot of ways.
Maybe.
I don't know if maybe the parents, speaking objectively, like I don't think this stuff will come back to bite her later in her career if she leans into it. I don't know. I think Hollywood's going in a direction where maybe in the 90s doing stuff like this might have been a problem for you later on, but nowadays I don't think that Hollywood's going in a direction where this will have to work, where this will have to be a problem for her.
If anything, unfortunately, it might end up helping her later on.
Probably. And it also bothers me because look, in 20 years we're going to have to wait, and then we're going to get the articles that are saying Sam Levinson coerced so-and-so into shooting these scenes, and then I've got to listen to all the, then who's lying? Were you lying when you were in your 20s and you're saying it was the greatest thing ever? Or are you lying now so that you can get more attention for your career as your beauty starts to fade and your career starts to fizzle out? I don't know what side to take. I just think both are annoying.
Yeah. I think you at the very least got to be consistent. You know, however you talk about it when it happens should be how you feel about it.
Yeah, like how you feel about it now in your 20s should be how you feel about it in your 50s if no crimes were committed. If that's how you behaved in your 20s, fine, own it. Like, don't come to me 20 years later and say that you regret doing, or like you were coerced into doing them. In fact, I'll change it. You can regret doing them. I guess there's nothing wrong with saying like, look, I was wrong when I did these when I was younger. But when you start telling me that somebody like, oh, he had power over me by being the director, I'm like, then don't take the job.
Do you remember the Joe Rogan bit from like 2016 where he was talking about Harvey Weinstein? And he was like, I am a sexist, but I'm sexist against men, because if I had a son and Harvina Weinstein was like, and he was like, be like, do you want to be Batman or not? It's like, I just remember that one. Like it every time this comes up, it's always in the back of my mind. Joe Rogan.
It's a never-ending cycle too. For like, that's I get unduly annoyed when I read these articles because they're always glorifying it in their 20s, and then their 40s and their 50s come along, and I'm hearing about how everything was bad back then. I'm like, how can it simultaneously be a sign of free expression and part of the sexual revolution and the freedom of women, and then also a crime 20 years later if you're not reporting the crime when it happened? I don't know who to trust or who to believe. I just know that all of it is annoying.
I am curious on your thoughts about this, though. Which is worse, this Sydney Sweeney thing or MILF Manor? I know Phil's thoughts are probably Sydney Sweeney.
I don't know. I feel like pound for pound, Actually, I have no idea. That's the thing. Is like, I feel like the Sydney Sweeney one is worse as an isolated incident, but the sheer scale of MILF Manor. MILF Manor is more incestuous and creepy. Like MILF Manor is probably objectively worse.
Yeah, probably.
Like everyone knows that Hollywood is full of creepy people in charge that get people to do things that they may or may not want to do, and then it's our job to discern which ones actually wanted to do this stuff and which ones are just doing this for the promotion now, which they will then eventually turn on its head later and say, oh, it was so bad, it was this, it was that. MILF Manor's bad all the time. Yeah. Like there isn't a good version of MILF Manor. No. Like not really. Like that, it's so weird how like reality TV shows have been like more than anything in Hollywood. Reality TV show is coursing the culture far faster. Between this and the show where they're doing making kids look at naked adults for the sake of educating kids on different body types. Yeah. Like they're it's being used as a bludgeon and a weapon to be like, it's not bad, it's just reality TV. Yeah. It's all bad.
It's all bad.
It's all bad. Okay, then let me ask you this question. Have a daughter. Do you ask for the warning beforehand? Yeah. Or do you yell at her after if she doesn't get the warning? If she doesn't give the warning? In both circumstances, yes. Yes. Bill?
I have no idea.
Imagine being put in that position, right?
Even if it could be my friend, and I would be like, "Hey, if there's gonna be a sex scene, can you warn me first? Because like,
heads up, please."
Yeah, it's like I may or may not want to see that.
Yep. Yep. It's just I don't know, man.
Like it's with the boys, I'm gonna be like, "You better watch," but like you know.
It just boggles my mind because I read stuff like this and it's like I just can't imagine having that conversation with my dad. It's just no. I don't know, man. It's she's an interesting case though because she seems to lean into these roles and really like it. So she's making it part of who she is as an actress. It is what it is. You know, she's playing Reality Winner. Apparently. The NS they like you want to talk about winning the casting lottery, like, you know, the actor always looks better than the person. Well, this is a fantastic example of that, of somebody who like Reality Winner is Reality Winner is she's just not, I'm not saying she's ugly, she's just definitely not Sydney Sweeney. That is for sure. And I felt bad because I didn't even know who that was. I had no idea about the Reality Winner thing until...
What was her thing again?
She was
she released classified information.
Oh, okay.
Also, actually, speaking of casting, I want to put this up here. These were my... guys, I recently... Because Elizabeth Holmes just started her prison sentence. Did you see that? She's finally in jail. She's probably hawking a fake blood product to the people in jail now in the yard. Well, if they ever make another movie about Elizabeth Holmes, these are my casting choices. I give you down to earth Elizabeth Holmes on the top, and then I give you smoking hot Elizabeth Holmes on the bottom. The top one is Robin Weigert. The bottom one is Alona Tal. Those are different people. So it just proves that with a little bit of makeup, you can look like anybody, right?
True. No, I don't agree with that.
Maybe not you, but
with a lot of makeup,
you can look like anybody.
I mean, at that point, just go with CG.
Yep, yeah, true. Do that. All right. The fact of the matter is, if you're going to be in a sex scene, let your parents know ahead of time.
Do you think it's a little odd with that specific one that she's like, people are sexualizing the character? I haven't seen much of the show, but the people sexualizing the character are the writers.
Yes.
Which bugs me because this is a show about high school students.
Yep.
Like, listen, high school students hook up with each other. They do. It happens. but as an adult, you're supposed to kind of like turn a blind eye to it when you're writing.
Yeah.
Like,
also, just make them college kids.
yeah, just write a story about, or at the very least, make sure they're all 18.
Yes.
When you're having the like.
Yep. All right. We got some super chats there. Let us move on. All right. What are we? Was this commies that we left off at? Or did we leave off at Dexy? Scrolling up. There we are. This is the Almighty Truffle says, oh no, we read that one. Are y'all on Rumble? The Dexy guy says, I'm going to gaslight my friends at Rammstein Air Base now. Air Force Base now. Gaslight all of them, my friend.
Good.
Rhaegar Targaryen says, change the band name to Cosby Stein.
Oh,
Cosby
no.
Stein. Oof, that's not good.
No.
That's bad.
I mean,
call them Weinstein.
Considering what they're being accused of, Rammstein works well enough.
Harvey Rammstein.
Harvey Rammstein.
There you go. Perfect.
Flagpole set a cover.
Sketch Therapy says too young. I don't even know what that is. XEQX. Am I?
Wait, what?
Somebody want to help me with this one?
Which one?
XQQX?
Yes, XEQX.
I can't even.
Too young for XEQX.
I think that's
At 24, I'm guessing they're saying.
I think it's just supposed to be sex.
Okay.
Yeah,
at 24,
I guess.
too young to vote at 24. Well, there you go.
Yeah, that's fair.
Rhaegar Targaryen also says Al Gore is the man who invented the internet. That is true. I know that is a fact. I've seen that fact checked.
He invented the internet.
Yep. Corey Anderson says, can we get Ronnie Radke on the IRL? Who's Ronnie Radke?
Lead singer of Falling in Reverse.
Okay. Then can we do that, Phil? Can you pass in?
I mean, I do imagine that I've said before, if Ronnie wants to come on, shoot me a message. But he's probably a busy guy.
Okay.
Yeah, it seems like the musicians are typically hard to get.
It's hard to lock people down.
Sketch Therapy says commies will never win the Simon Ehrlich Wagner.
The Simon Ehrlich wager.
What is that?
Simon Ehrlich.
No idea.
Wager. I'm gonna look it up.
Look it up. See what it says.
1980 wager between business professor Julian L. Simon and biologist Paul Ehrlich, who's the guy who wrote The Population Boom.
Okay.
Betting on a mutually agreed upon measure of resource scarcity over the decade leading up to 1990. The widely followed contest originated in the pages of Social Science Quarterly, where Simon challenged Ehrlich to put his money where his mouth was in response to Ehrlich's published claim that if I were a gambler, I would take even money that England will not exist in the year 2000.
Imagine subscribing to Social Science Quarterly.
Yeah, this is what and they're making the same predictions, and you have way more people, and you're just not seeing the changes that they've been predicting and screaming about. I think that there's probably some truth to the idea of anthropomorphic climate change. I think this is the word where man actually causes it, but it's not the emergency that they're making it out to be. It's not going to change the coastlines the way they say it's going to, and it's not going to destroy the planet or make Earth inhospitable. The Earth has been. There were times where the Earth was average, significantly warmer, and times where the Earth was on average significantly cooler, and life has survived. Mm-hmm. People need to chill out. They're just trying to get a way to control your life.
There's also, I mean, if you look at the end of the Younger Dryas and then Meltwater Pulse 1b, even after that massive catastrophic sea level rise, there were still 20 meters between the sea level then and the sea level now. They're talking about inches over the next 100 years.
Inches.
Like, you want to talk about catastrophic sea level rise, I can talk to you about catastrophic sea level rise, but it's not this.
It's not this.
All right. Sketch Therapy says Phil has the best takes on communism.
That's because there's only one take on communism.
And that it's
sucks.
Bad.
It is murderous. It's not just bad. It ends in piles and piles and piles of bodies.
Karl Marx is responsible for 50 Shades of Grey.
What?
Yeah, you can draw the line.
Explain that.
Right now?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh boy.
Explain that.
All right, we got to.
You can't just claim that and just leave it be. You have to explain it.
Okay. All right. So, well, there's the typical story, which is that 9/11 is responsible for 50 Shades of Grey. Do you know that one?
Yes.
Okay.
No. Yeah.
Basically,
okay.
Al Qaeda does 9/11. Gerard Way sees 9/11 happen, starts My Chemical Romance. Black Parade inspires. Or might not have been Black, but My Chemical Romance inspires Stephanie Meyer. Stephanie Meyer writes Twilight. That inspires 50 Shades of Grey. well, obviously Al-Qaeda only exists because of the Mujahideen. So the CIA had to fund the Mujahideen. Why did the Mujahideen exist? Well, because of communism in Russia. And why was communism in Russia? Because Lenin put it there. Why did Lenin put it there? Because the Germans kicked him out. Why did the Germans kick him out? Because he was a Marxist.
Perfect. So the real question is, have you also
the real question is, who caused Marx?
Yes. No, there's also my favorite.
Hegel.
The rabbit hole just keeps going.
Yeah, I mean the biggest, one of the biggest influences on Marx was Hegel, and before Hegel it was Rousseau.
Oh
so.
boy, that tracks though. That makes sense.
Rousseau, Hegel, Marx, Nietzsche, then Lenin, Stalin, Hitler. All the horrible things come from the 19th century.
In Germany, apparently.
Sure, I say
yes. All these awful ideas came from Germany.
All right.
As did Rammstein.
Let's keep going. It's like all the bad things seem to come from one place. I'm just saying. Corey Anderson says, we need a Falling in Reverse, All That Remains collaboration. Phil's thoughts on Watch the World Burn by Falling in Reverse.
Sick.
Great.
Sick.
Yeah. All right. All right.
Also, Ronnie just displays such an incredible variety of talents in that song. The rap to the screaming to the operatic. Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Finger on the pulse.
Gross John says, great to see Aiden on the show again. I've been enjoying a lot of Lore Lodge videos. Also, Brett, I hear you mentioned this Veronica Mars show a lot recently. Is it worth watching? What's it like? Yes! Look, people, I have a pretty strong hit rate with people, so the question would be, have you taken any of my other suggestions for things to watch? In this case, it is very much a slice of what life was like back in the day for... Crisis Party. I bought that one. I paid for that one because I wanted to get the second Crisis Party. It's one of those shows that's absolutely ridiculous, in which Veronica Mars is a private investigator with her dad, even though she's still a high school student. And even though she's still a high school student who seems to just never be in class, and kids in her class come up and ask her to help her like investigate things and solve problems. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of actually very poignant topics in the first season in regards to bad things that have happened to high school students. It's really worth checking out the first couple of episodes, and if you feel like it's something you'd want to watch, it's definitely chill, and it's not the most serious of shows, but I do enjoy it. So I do think you should watch it. Okay, Corey Anderson says, as someone who works in the, I'm guessing IC means intelligence community, Reality Winner stated that she was wrong for what she did and is guilty. As me with the trans
sexual
guy, NDAs are legally binding. Yes? No? I don't understand the second part.
I'm a little confused by the second part of the...
Yeah, I don't understand the second part.
If I'm being honest.
But okay. I didn't know that she had come out and said that since then, but that's interesting that they're making a show about her. In regards, one thing that I've learned watching a lot of shows and movies, like Hollywood in the mid 2000s, it's really funny watching all their shows, which are just all in on the neoliberal. Like they're never pro, like they're pro one party now, sure, but they're always pro government.
Yeah,
like they loved making shows about the Patriot Act and terrorism, like you think it's bad. It was bad in the early 2000s when it was everyone was a Muslim terrorist. Like I was watching this funny thing where this guy talks about like he wanted to make a skit where he's like it's one of these actors who just got all the roles in the early 2000s because there was just always roles for terrorist characters.
Yeah.
Now they're like not getting the roles they want anymore because they're afraid to make those movies and those shows now.
Well, now the bad guys are all Russians.
No. Soon it's going to just be Americans. It's it'll be the war. You think the war on terror was bad? The war on domestic terror will be even worse.
Yeah, right.
And the movies and the television shows will reflect that. So everyone's going to be a Nazi.
Well,
everyone's going to be a white supremacist. Even though we know that not all white people. Now we have off-white supremacy.
Yeah.
So it's going to be bad. Television's going to get even worse.
Well, they also tried with they already tried to do that with Far Cry 5, I think it was.
Yeah.
But the problem was the song those guys had slapped. So everybody was like, wait a second, this is the bad guys in this are a group of like God-fearing Christians living off in the woods, living off the land, and hanging out with stable families. You're like, what's bad about this? Where's the
Well, that's the meme, right? It's like it was the memes during COVID where it's like it's somebody in a mask and like a hood over it and like a whole face shield, and they're like, you're a terrorist or you're a conspiracy theorist for people like just at home eating dinner with their family.
I do wonder though if we're starting to see a shift in the culture though, because like Rainn Wilson when The Last of Us came out, I don't think the dude's a Christian, and he's pretty liberal, and he came out and he was like, I felt that this was a little on the nose and unfair.
He walked that back a little bit. Yeah, you can't stand your ground in Hollywood.
I had a smidge of respect for the guy for a second.
He walked that back a little bit afterwards. So, all right. Bree, Fear Me, it's Bree, says, my brother-in-law looks exactly like young Stalin, and my husband as a kid looks like young Putin. Also zombified by falling in reverse's fire.
Sick.
My favorite meme of all time is it's a picture of Stalin. It says dark humor is like food. Not everybody gets it. That's still to this day. There's two, and there's another one that says it says like the USSR tries to destroy America, fails. Japan tries to destroy America, fails, and then it cuts to Thanos and says, America, fine, I'll do it myself. Because we're basically doing it ourselves. We're doing it on our own. And Corey Anderson says he meant Chelsea Manning.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, guys, before we go, would you hit the like button on this video and subscribe to this channel if you have not done so already? Thank you very much for that. Would you guys like to shout anything out? Phil?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter. I am Phil That Remains on Twitter. I am Phil That Remains Official on Instagram. The band is All That Remains on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, all those places.
Perfect. Aiden.
Yeah, I'm Aiden Mattis. I am host of the channel The Lore Lodge here on YouTube. You can also catch me on Twitch 3 days a week. That's typically Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday at twitch.tv/TheAidenMattis. And then basically all of my social media is also The Aiden Mattis, spelled A-I-D-A-N, not E-N.
Yeah, I got that wrong the first time, too.
It's okay.
Aiden will be with us the whole week. In fact, all three of us. It will essentially be Boys Cast all week long.
Boys.
But we're going to have a rotation of people in fourth chair. You can't see anybody there because there's nobody there right now. But there will be. So we got people all week. It's going to be a lot of fun. So guys, go ahead and subscribe to this channel if you have not done so already. Like I said, if you'd like to follow me, you can follow me on Instagram and on Twitter at Brett Dasovic on both of those platforms. I am going to finally do my job and finish the poll for once. I always forget to close out the poll. Literally every time. And today, the winner is Amber Heard. She is the bigger movie villain than climate change. Makes perfect sense. Your bed sheets are never safe when Amber Heard is around. Guys, at Brett Dasovic on Instagram and Twitter. The show is here Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That is noon Pacific. If you would like to listen to this podcast, we are on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Pandora, and Spotify. And if you'd like to follow the show on social media, we are on Twitter at popculture_show, Facebook and TikTok at Pop Culture Crisis, and on Instagram at Pop Culture Crisis Pod. We will be back with another episode tomorrow. We'll see you then, guys. Bye.